Then I went to Douluo. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401 Reward. Still in the pavilion. The blue-haired young man looked at Ayuns, who suddenly appeared in front of him, without showing any surprise, just smiled lightly and said, "It seems that you have completed the transaction I gave you." Ayuns got straight to the point. "What price can I get?" The young man spread his hands and smiled. "I don't know, it depends on your luck." Ayuns couldn't help frowning. "What do you mean?" The young man had a smiling look on his face. "What else can it mean?" "It just depends on your luck." After speaking, before Ayuns wanted to say anything else, the young man raised his right hand, and as the blue light emerged, an illusory light and shadow wheel appeared in front of him, held in the young man's hand. Ayuns stared at the roulette wheel in a daze. "You want me to draw by myself?" The young man nodded. "Yes." "Excuse me, do you want to do it yourself, or do you want me to help you?" Ayuns frowned again. "But there is nothing written on your roulette wheel, and this roulette wheel is yours." "How do I know if you will interfere?" The young man chuckled and said, "So what? I have said before that this is a game of unequal transaction, not only for you, but also for me. Look, your first transaction, such a simple request, but you may draw 100,000 years soul bone from this roulette wheel. It is me who should feel unfair, not you. Unless you don't want the reward for this transaction." Ayuns snorted and said, "That's true, but I may still draw an ordinary stone, and maybe you can secretly decide what I can draw." He knew very well and was not moved by what the young man said. The young man smiled and said, "First of all, I don't have any ordinary stones here. What you can draw from me is at least useful. In addition, the lottery is absolutely fair and I won't do anything behind the scenes. Now, do you want to turn the wheel yourself?" Ayuns, who knows if what you said is true, although he said this, he still reached out and turned the wheel in front of him. After all, the rewards should not be missed. Ayuns didn't have much strength, but the wheel still turned rapidly, so fast that the pattern on it became a residual image, and it seemed that there was no trend of stopping, but it felt like it was turning faster and faster. But when he just had this idea in his mind, a blue light suddenly came out from the rapidly rotating wheel. After spinning a few times, it floated steadily in the center of the wheel. The wheel, which was originally spinning rapidly, immediately stopped turning. In an instant, it went from extremely active to extremely quiet, which was very inconsistent with common sense. But Ayuns' attention was not on the roulette wheel at all. He kept staring at the blue light that was thrown out, and then watched the blue light fade away when the roulette wheel stopped, revealing a black bead that was as black as ink and emitting an ominous black mist-like energy. What made Ayuns feel strange was that he did not feel the slightest discomfort when feeling the ominous power, but felt a little comfortable. The young man's voice sounded with a little surprise. "Oh, it seems that you are lucky," Ayuns asked puzzledly. "What is this?" The young man looked at the black bead, and a little memory appeared in his strange blue eyes. Then, he said, "This is the energy core left after the dark demon evil god tiger was killed. It contains most of the dark demon evil god tiger's abilities. If you can absorb it, not only will your martial soul become purer, but you may also be able to let your martial soul gain more abilities related to the dark demon evil god tiger." Ayuns listened and felt a little familiar, and then found the relevant fragments in his memory. His expression became a little strange. "Could this be?" the young man said bluntly. "What are you thinking?" "This is a dark demon evil god tiger I killed 10,000 years ago. I think it has collection value, so I left it." The strange look on Ayuns' face faded a little, but he still had some doubts. After a pause, he said, "Then this thing belongs to me?" The young man nodded and took back the roulette. "Of course, it's yours now." Ayuns hesitated for a moment, and did not reach out to take it immediately. Instead, he looked at the young man and asked, "How can I absorb it?" The young man smiled. "If you want to know, then we have to make a deal." Ayuns shook his head quickly, and then reached out to grab the black bead. And the black bead did not resist as he expected. He easily grabbed it in his hand, and then hesitated for a while and put it in his pocket. The young man watched silently, and when he was ready, he smiled and said, "Now, do you want to ask me for a trade?" Ayuns nodded without hesitation. "I want you to help me kill the Duchess, and then tell Duke Beihu about our family's existence." The young man smiled. "That counts as 2 trade requests." So Ayuns immediately changed it. Then let Duke Beihu know about our family's existence, and you must make him believe it completely, and don't let him think that it was me who leaked it, and don't let the Duchess know." The young man thought for a moment, then said, "This trade request is fine. But, the familiar, malicious smile that Dai Yun's was familiar with appeared on his face again. The young man, "It's just that I think you can't afford the reward for this transaction request." Dai Yun's heart trembled, and he asked, "If I want you to complete this request, what price should I pay?" The young man smiled and said, "I want your brother's soul." Dai Yun's couldn't believe it. "What?" The young man spread his hands. "What? Don't agree." Dai Yun's couldn't help but said, "This is unfair. Why can you decide what I should give you?" The young man tapped the table with his fingertips, shook his head, and chuckled. "I said it, this is an unequal transaction. Since you have decided to join this game, you should be mentally prepared. Besides," the young man smiled sarcastically at this time, "even if it is up to you to decide what I will get after completing the transaction, do you think you can give me anything?" Dai Yun's didn't say anything, because every word the young man said was true. He had nothing. But Dai Yun's didn't want to give up. He was a little indignant. "Is there no way, Tang Liu? These days, it's so difficult to give out benefits." Chapter 402 Leaving. The young man still mocked, "Of course there's a way, but you still can't afford the price. So, why don't you become stronger and collect enough treasures before trading with me? Maybe, at that time, you can pay the corresponding price." Dai Yun's was silent for a moment. "You just want me to continue this game with you?" The young man smiled helplessly. There was another moment of silence. Dai Yun's lowered his head slightly and said softly, "Besides, becoming strong enough is too slow and too far away." The young man couldn't help laughing out loud. "So you think it's too slow? Then why don't you trade with me a few more times? I have anything you want that can quickly improve your strength. As long as you can take it out, it's all yours." Dai Yun's knew that this was still the young man tempting him to continue this game. And this transaction, which should be endless, is definitely a big pit that you can't get out of once you jump in. Maybe at some point, he will be completely ruined. But Dai Yun's had to admit it. He was tempted. So after a long silence, he looked at the young man and said slowly, "Tell me how to absorb the energy core of the dark demon evil tiger." The smile on the young man's face widened a little. "Okay," Dai Yun said calmly. "What's the price?" The young man looked like a mental patient. He tilted his head left and right, and his eyes rolled around with his head. "Well, I want," as if intentionally, the young man dragged out the sound of the word want very long, and then after looking at Dai Yun's with a nervous face, he smiled and said, "I want a drop of your blood." When the young man said this, Dai Yun's couldn't help but be stunned. He couldn't help but said aloud, "Is it that simple?" The young man didn't want to waste any more time talking to him. "Deal." Dai Yun's also immediately said, "Deal." The young man nodded, and without any hesitation, he gave Dai Yun's the method of absorbing the energy core, eat it, and cooperate with a meditation technique of cultivating soul power, and just endure the pain that follows. Dai Yun's, "What if I don't make it?" The young man, "If this energy core still has the consciousness of the dark demon evil god tiger remaining, then you will be possessed. You got a bargain. When I killed the dark demon evil god tiger, I wiped out the remaining consciousness on it. But if you still can't make it, if it's serious, you will be directly backfired by the energy and die directly. If it's lighter, you will just be unconscious for a while. But considering that your martial soul and the dark demon evil god tiger have the same origin, you should be very compatible with the energy in the core. At least you shouldn't die." After listening, Dai Yun's breathed a sigh of relief. The young man continued, "I have completed your trade request now. Similarly, I have taken your one drop of blood." Dai Yun's was about to extend his hand to let the young man take his blood when he saw the young man opposite him raise his hand. A red blood bead was quietly floating on his palm. He looked at the blood bead in surprise. Just as he was about to say something, he heard the young man say, "Then now, according to the rules, I will start to make a second trade request to you." Dai Yun's expression became more serious. "Please speak." The young man smiled, poured away the blood bead in his palm, and then said, "You can only absorb the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger at midnight 1 month later." Dai Yun's was stunned. "Why?" The young man didn't say any more nonsense. "Deal." Although Dai Yun's was extremely confused, he could only grit his teeth and reluctantly agreed. "Deal." Yu Hao felt that something was wrong with himself today. He always felt a little uneasy, and even couldn't sleep well at night. Then, between half asleep and half awake, he seemed to hear someone calling him. "Yu Hao? Yu Hao?" He opened his eyes dazedly. Although it was still dark around him, he could still see the figure sitting beside his bed with his martial spirit eyes. It was his brother, Dai Yun's. Yu Hao wanted to sit up immediately, but Dai Yun stopped him and whispered, "No need to get up. It's still early. You can still sleep for a long time." Yu Hao agreed dazedly and didn't get up again, still lying on the bed. In the darkness, Dai Yun sighed softly, and then whispered, "Yu Hao, do you still remember what I said to you?" Yu Hao responded dazedly, and many scenes of Dai Yun's talking to him in a serious tone emerged in his mind. Dai Yun's paused for a long time before continuing, "I tell you, you don't have to hate the Duke of White Tiger and the Duchess because of our family's misfortune, because the love between Mother and the Duke of White Tiger was a mistake in the first place, and the Duchess suppressed us only for the sake of her child." Although Yu Hao was confused, the corresponding memory still emerged in his mind. He said him softly, "Dai Yun's, do you remember what I said to you later? I tell you, I am not asking you to be merciful and let go of all your hatred. Of course you can hate, because hatred is human instinct. But I hope that if you really want to choose to hate someone, then hate this era, hate this wrong era, and then do everything you can to change it, so that all the examples like our mother and the White Tiger Duke in the world will no longer become tragedies." At this point, he suddenly laughed softly twice, looked at Yu Hao's sleeping face, and said, "Do you remember, when I told you all this, what was your reaction? You said, how can children like us have the ability to change this era? I will tell you the answer to this question now, Yu Hao. Of course you have the ability, even if you are only a soul warrior with innate first-level soul power now, but you will eventually become, in this era, the most dazzling star, I promise you. So, I changed my mind. I will bear all your hatred in the future. You go and become the dazzling sun. And I will watch your radiance in the shadows." The exquisite and luxurious carriage, surrounded by a team of well-equipped guards, slowly left the magnificent main gate of the Duke's mansion. Dai Yun sat in the carriage and took a last look at the magnificent mansion through the window. "Goodbye, Yu Hao, wait until I come back, take good care of Mom when I'm away, take good care of yourself, too." Yu Hao hadn't heard his brother's voice for a long time. A bad premonition suddenly filled his mind. Chapter 403 Mingdao. The sudden sense of panic in his heart prompted him to open his eyes immediately and then sit up suddenly. He looked around in a daze, murmuring, "Brother," there was no figure, and no response from that figure. Yu Hao immediately got off the bed and walked out of the room. The moment he opened the door, he shouted again, "Brother," still no response. He rushed into his brother's room next door and opened the door. It was deserted. Looking back, he just saw someone pushing the door in. It was his mother. Ho Yuner looked at Yu Hao, who pursed his lips tightly, and was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "Yu Hao, why are you awake now?" Yu Hao said nothing, just looked at Ho Yuner, who looked a little haggard and seemed to have suddenly aged a lot, and clenched his fists tightly. The smile on Ho Yuner's face gradually disappeared. She lowered her head and seemed to sob. Then she suddenly raised her head, covered her mouth and nose with one hand, and made a sad sound that sounded like crying and laughing. She looked at Yu Hao over there, and the tears she tried to hold back finally slid down her cheeks. She walked over quickly and hugged the child who was standing there. She was obviously a little broken, but she still tried her best to pretend to be strong, and kept saying to Yu Hao, "Don't blame your brother, don't blame your brother, he is doing it for us." She was no longer a carefree little maid, with only that one person in her eyes, heart, and mind. She was the mother of her two children. She had to be strong. But every time at this time, she still couldn't help thinking. That person, her lover. When will you show up? Starting from Xingluo City to the westernmost part of the Xingluo Empire, the border with the Sun and Moon Empire, the Mingdao Mountains, without the help of a flying soul guide, it would take about 10 days to travel straight without sleep. But the guards escorting Dai Yun certainly couldn't just act like this. After all, the person sitting in the carriage was the son of a duke, and they certainly couldn't neglect it. In addition, Dai Yun's was only a 6-year-old child after all, and he could not bear to be carried in the air by a flying soul guide. So along the way, the guards tried to pass through the city in the evening as much as possible, so that Dai Yun's could rest comfortably in the city. Of course, the distance between cities is not equal, and they can't reach a city every night, so more often, they still have to stay in the wild to rest. In this way, almost a month after leaving the Duke's mansion, Dai Yun saw the existence of the Mingdao Mountains. As the product of the collision of two continents, The Mingdao Mountains are not high, but they stretch from south to north almost across the border of the Xingluo Empire. For the Xingluo Empire, it can be said to be a natural defense barrier. In contrast, the Xian'an Empire, which also borders the Sun and Moon Empire in the north, is not so lucky. There is a vast plain there, which is easy to attack but difficult to defend. Perhaps this is also the reason why the Xian'an Empire became the first country to be destroyed by the Sun and Moon Empire after the war. But Dai Yun's can't think so much now. After all, the future of war is still too far away for him. He just looked at the long mountain range from a distance through the car window, and felt a strange throbbing in his heart. Some fear, but more of it. It was an extremely inexplicable excitement. Just like a predator seeing its prey. Dai Yun didn't know why he had this feeling in his heart, but the memories in his mind still reminded him of a possibility. That was mentioned in Douluo III, because the plane cracks caused by the collision between the Sun-Moon continent and the Douluo continent made another plane called Abyss connected to Douluo Star. The Douluo Federation in later generations still arranged troops to be stationed in the Mingdao Mountains, and it was the strongest legion, just to suppress the Abyss creatures that sneaked in from the Abyss plane. Dai Yun still remembered that the same setting was not the first time it appeared in this universe. In the world of Qin, there was also this setting. In addition, basically all the more important protagonists gathered in the Legend of Tang heroes, so Qin's world was also in the same universe as Douluo continent. So, although the novel in his memory did not mention it, would these two abyssal planes be connected? So, if he encounters creatures from the abyssal plane in the future, can he deal with it in a similar way to how Qin dealt with the abyssal plane? Dai Yun was stunned for a moment, then shook his head gently. He was thinking too far. After all, there was no mention of anything about the abyssal plane in Douluo II. It was probably because the plane crack had not yet expanded to the point where it could connect to the abyssal plane, or it had not yet taken shape. Anyway, no matter which reason it was, people on Douluo continent should not know the existence of the abyssal plane. Just as Dai Yun was staring at the Mingdao Mountains in the distance, the captain of the guards who was responsible for escorting him rode a soul beast horse to the window where he was leaning against and said to him, "Master, it's getting late. Let's rest nearby and continue our journey tomorrow morning. As long as we pass through this forest, we can reach the outskirts of the military camp where the general is." Dai Yun nodded slightly, looked at the heroic man in armor, and said, "Uncle Lee, everything is up to you." A smile appeared on the captain of the guard's serious face. He looked at Dai Yun and said, "According to our current speed, we will arrive tomorrow afternoon, and you will be able to see the general at that time. Don't be nervous, the general is a very good person, and he has been preparing to see you for a long time." Dai Yun sneered in his heart with some disdain, but still showed a smile that contained some expectation and nervousness on his face. After all, this made him look more like a 6-year-old child. To be honest, he had read the original novel of Dower, so he naturally had a general understanding of the White Tiger Duke Tang Hao and knew what kind of person the White Tiger Duke was. Therefore, Dai Yun agreed with the captain of the guards. But even though he agreed, Tang Hao was his biological father in this world, in his heart, he still didn't have much feeling for Tang Hao. For example, a father and son who have a bad relationship, no matter how much the child hates his father, he will still have a little respect for his father in his heart. Even in some extreme cases, the child will still have some complicated feelings for his father. But Dai Yun is completely different. He can't have any respect for Tang Hao at all, and he doesn't have any emotional ups and downs when thinking of Tang Hao. It's just that he can't help but feel a little melancholy, sighing about the love between his mother and Tang Hao in this world. Tang Hao is almost equivalent to an irrelevant stranger to him. In other words, for Dai Yun, Tang Hao is still the supporting role in the novel. Well, that's all for today. I guess I should be able to finish this prelude and start the main text of Dao tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. If the author fails to do so, it means the author is procrastinating again. Yu-heo, what should I do if my brother doesn't want me anymore? Dai Yun, not only do I not want you anymore, but when we get to Shrek Academy, I will also pretend not to know you. Lulu. Yun pretends not to know his younger brother. The younger brother chases his wife, crossed out. The elder brother is in the crematorium. Chapter 404 Attack. It was late at night. In the forest at the foot of the Mingdao Mountains, a group of guards surrounded the carriage in the center, fully ensuring the safety of the carriage and Dai Yun in the carriage. After all, as a large forest, there are still some soul beasts living in it, and they are also mutant soul beasts unique to the Mingdao Mountains. The cultivation of these mutant soul beasts may not be that high, but without exception, they are very powerful. Among the guards escorting Daiyuns this time, the one with the highest cultivation is the captain of the guards, who has a cultivation of more than 70 levels. He is a soul saint with rich combat experience from the military. Except for this captain of the guards, the lowest cultivation of others is also a 4-ring soul master. In short, with such strength, as long as they don't encounter that kind of particularly powerful soul Douluo or title Douluo, they are capable of escorting Daiyuns safely to the White Tiger Duke Tang Hao. In fact, this is exactly the case. All the way from Xingluo City, they were also attacked by bandits several times, but they were all repelled by this team of guards. Along the way, Daiyuns, as a bystander, also knew that in the eyes of the guards, protecting his safety was the most important thing, otherwise, those bandits who came to attack them would not be able to escape. What's more, the captain of the guards with a cultivation of Soul Saint never really took action. He just stood quietly beside the carriage, released his martial soul, and showed the 7 circles of soul rings on his body to those thieves, which was already a great deterrent. As I said just now, unless he encountered an extremely powerful soul Douluo or a title Douluo, with the strength of this guard team, he could take Daiyuns to the White Tiger Duke Tang Hao safely. But how could a title Douluo have the time to deal with them? Moreover, as long as he cultivated to the level of title Douluo, he must be a well-known figure on this Douluo continent. If such a person wants to deal with the son of the Duke, then the first thing to consider is whether he can withstand the counterattack from the Xingluo Empire. After all, the importance of the White Tiger Duke is self-evident to the Xingluo Empire. Therefore, if a duke's son died outside, the Xingluo Empire would never let it go. It was precisely because they knew this that the guards did not have any thoughts of worrying too much. Now the only thing they had to be careful of was the soul beasts they might encounter in this forest. That was why they did not light a fire, because they were afraid of attracting some powerful soul beasts. Although the guards were now sitting in meditation and resting on the spot, leaving only 2 people to guard the night, as the elite soldiers under the Duke of White Tiger, and a member of the White Tiger Guard brought up by the Duke of White Tiger, they still maintained a strong sense of vigilance even in this state. However, when the gap in strength is too great, no matter how strong this vigilance is, it cannot cross the gap like a natural moat. Mr. Long floated quietly in the air. Although the trees below were lush, his eyes still passed through the many obstacles and fell on the carriage. In fact, he had been in the air for a long time, so long that he saw with his own eyes that the guards surrounded the carriage and left the road and entered the forest next to it. Of course, due to the size of the carriage, the guards did not go too deep. But they just came to his feet. Mr. Long's face looked a little solemn. Is there really anyone in the world who can calculate things to this extent? Or is there really anyone who can predict the future? We don't know why Mr. Long appeared here at this time. But in short, after he seemed to feel a certain breath emanating from the carriage below, his expression changed, and then his figure became virtual. He turned into a giant dragon with a length of more than a kilometer, a pair of golden eyes, and a body covered in black scales in the darkness. The indescribable majesty and oppression spread around like the morning light breaking through the dawn. All the guards looked up at the same time and looked at the sky above their heads that was blocked by leaves. It was really that the oppression from the air was too strong to be ignored. Since they didn't know the source of the pressure, the guards were not ready to fight. But then, the captain of the guards with the highest cultivation level looked in front of him. His expression became extremely solemn. He said in a deep voice, "Be careful, there is an enemy attack. Protect the young master." The other guards also looked around vigilantly. But the next moment, a cold light flashed, and the guard with the lowest cultivation level suddenly froze in place, and the next moment, his head was separated. The captain of the guards naturally saw this scene, and his eyes were about to burst. He shouted loudly and released his martial spirit at the same time. The 7 circles of bright soul rings were extremely eye-catching in the dark forest. "Who is it? Come out." The next moment he finished speaking, a figure suddenly emerged from the air in front of him, and then a palm was slapped on his heart. The captain of the guards flew backwards and even smashed the carriage behind him into countless pieces. But the figure that suddenly appeared did not stop because of this. He continued to rush forward and then picked up the child lying on the broken wood. A beam of soul power shone, but missed the figure holding the child. Because the man and the child disappeared from the spot, naturally, the strong soul power fell into the air, only splashing a cloud of dust. The guards around wanted to stop him immediately. But suddenly, several figures with soul rings flashing on their bodies emerged, stopping all the guards. The captain of the guards wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, but couldn't help spitting out blood again the next moment, and then half knelt on the ground. His lips were a little blue and purple, probably because he was poisoned. Someone wanted to come over and give him a fatal blow, but was killed by his own strong soul power. Under the siege of those unknown people who suddenly emerged, in just a few breaths, he and his last team member were the only guards left alive. The team member resisted the attacks of 5 people at the same time, but was stabbed in the heart by the enemy who rushed out from behind the next moment. He shouted at the captain of the guards, "Captain, go report to the general." The next moment, he took the initiative to detonate all his soul power. Amid the violent explosion, the captain of the guards deployed a flying soul guide behind him, gritted his teeth, and flew away. He naturally saw the giant dragon hovering in the air. Even though the other party disappeared the next moment, he did not receive any attack and flew several kilometers smoothly, indicating that the other party did not seem to have the intention of stopping him from leaving. But so what? His mission had long been declared a failure. A few minutes later, he broke into the tent of the White Tiger Duke. He almost used up his last strength. "General," the White Tiger Duke immediately rushed over and held him up with his hand. Before the Duke of White Tiger could say anything, black blood began to flow out of his 7 orifices. Even so, he still held the Duke of White Tiger's hand tightly, and uttered a voice that was almost only his breath left. "Young master, was captured." It was the evil soul master and the Dragon Emperor Douluo. After speaking intermittently, he still held the Duke of White Tiger's sleeve tightly, but he was completely dead. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 405 Naive. Deep in the Mingdao Mountains, Mr. Long was standing in front of a dark cave with an uncertain look. He was even full of rage and could burst out at any time. When he saw who was in the carriage, and the guard who flew away, he quickly realized that he had been tricked. And that person even blatantly threw a question in front of him. Choose to save or not? He seemed to have seen the malicious and sarcastic smile on that person's face. He wanted to turn around and leave angrily and choose not to save. But in that case, he was destined to take the blame today. Although his own strength was there, even if the Xingluo Empire wanted to retaliate against him with all its strength in the future, he was not afraid, not to mention that this was impossible. But he was involved in too many things. If the Xingluo Empire really found out something because of this, he would really be sorry for the oath he had made to the person in his heart. So, today he really had to choose to save. And only by rescuing people and bringing them safely to the White Tiger Duke can he clear all suspicions and save those who are connected to him. Although, he really couldn't bear to watch such a young child fall into the hands of an evil spirit master, but the feeling of being led by the nose was very uncomfortable. And if the Dragon Emperor Douluo was unhappy, someone would die. Dai Yuns quietly waited for the arrival of midnight in the carriage. He finally waited for the time of the second transaction with the young man, and then swallowed the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger that he had been hiding close to his body. Although he always felt that it was rash to do so, he had no choice. And in order to become stronger, he had to do this. When the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger entered his mouth, he only felt an extremely domineering, but extremely cold energy going down his esophagus. When the cold energy passed through his heart, he seemed to have no heartbeat for a long time afterwards. But he was still alive. The moment the energy reached his abdomen, it suddenly spread out and invaded his limbs. At this time, his martial spirit had been released uncontrollably. Along with the martial spirit, there was also a severe pain that immediately made him faint. He couldn't even hold on to that pain for more than a second. In his mind, there was only one last thought before he fainted. Am I going to die? But it was obvious that he was not dead yet. The young man's words were true. After he took the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger, he should not die at least. And he did open his eyes again. For a moment, it seemed that a dark flame flashed in the depths of his eyes. And when he saw everything around him clearly, he was stunned. Because the walls around him, mixed with mud and stones, and with torches, were obviously not related to the carriage he was in. He was also sure that the White Tiger Duke would not set up the military camp in such a place. So he arrived at the White Tiger Duke's military camp after sleeping. And it was precisely because of his coma that he had no idea what was happening. Dai Yun stood up vigilantly and let the martial spirit possess him directly. The energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger could not be absorbed completely by him immediately. After all, he was really weak now, both in terms of cultivation and physique. Now, the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger was only fused with him, and could be gradually absorbed as he practiced. That would be a very long process. Although just fusion has enabled him to use some of the dark demon evil god tiger's abilities. But that can't make him really strong. He still needs more time. But now, it seems that he is running out of time. Dai Yun's looked at the figure that gradually walked out of the shadows. The man was wearing a dark robe, and his appearance was old and sinister. He looked Dai Yun's up and down, then laughed sinisterly. You are indeed an interesting little guy. If I hadn't been asked by someone, I really didn't want to kill you. On the contrary, I would like to accept you as my apprentice, which is a pity. Dai Yun's retreated while looking for a place where he could escape, but the words of the man in front of him just now still attracted his attention. He was stunned for a moment, and then said, "You were asked by someone." The old man smiled, and a dark soul light ball appeared in his hand. At the same time, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black, a total of 7 soul rings slowly rose from his feet. Dai Yun stopped moving immediately, and an indescribable feeling of despair emerged in his heart. Soul Saint. He is just a soul master who has not even obtained soul rings. How can he escape from a soul saint? Moreover, this soul saint is also an evil soul master. The old man pressed on, saying, "Yes, I was asked to do this. By the way, that person also asked me to tell you before you die." The old man smiled deeply, making him look extremely ugly. There is a price to pay for being naive. Dai Yun was shocked and looked at the old man in front of him in horror. The old man smiled and continued. He said, "I never wanted you to see the White Tiger Duke alive. And your mother and brother, they will also be driven back to the servants' area and live the same life you had before. I should thank you for agreeing to my request that day, which gave me such a great opportunity to deal with you, and no one will doubt me later. After all, what will be presented to everyone later is that my adopted son was killed by the villains on the way to join the White Tiger Duke. As I told you, naivety has a price to pay. Tisk tisk tisk, it's really cruel. I am a little ashamed of myself." For a long time, Dai Yun did not react. The words the old man said kept echoing in his mind. And the sentence, "Innocence has to pay a price," was the strongest among all the voices. His body softened and he knelt on the ground. Yes, he paid the price. He was really too naive to believe that the Duchess would keep her promise and that the Duchess would really stop dealing with him. He was wrong. Very wrong. Dai Yun's eyes were dull, and his martial spirit had long been disintegrated and retracted. He murmured, she clearly swore in front of me." The old man curled his lips and said nonchalantly, "Who knows? Maybe before he swore, he had already arranged for me to kill you." In this way, even the most powerful oath is meaningless. Dai Yun's upper body shook violently and he almost fainted. "Mom, you Hao." In the end, he couldn't hold on and fell to the dusty ground, supporting his body with only his elbows. Although his fists were clenched tightly, he still looked full of powerlessness. 2 lines of tears slowly slid down and dripped into the dust. Dai Yun bit his lips tightly and was completely speechless. The old man sneered and looked at Dai Yun on the ground without any pity. "You look really pitiful like this, but I have to send you on your way now." As soon as he finished speaking, he threw the ball of black soul power in his hand towards Dai Yun. Dai Yun didn't want to resist, and he couldn't resist. He didn't even want to hide now. Of course, he might not be able to hide. But in short, he had almost completely given up the idea of living. He still looked at the dust under him blankly. The black soul energy was getting closer and closer, enough to kill a weak guy like him with one blow. He seemed to have felt the feeling of life passing away. But he didn't have any fear in his heart at this time. He just kept saying, "I'm sorry. There will probably be more today. I think the prelude plot will probably be over. But it will be a little later. Friends who don't want to wait can go to bed and watch it tomorrow." The problem of typos correction. I asked the editor today, and he said that the editing function of VIP chapters is generally not open to. So I probably can't modify the typos in the previous chapters. If I want to modify them, I have to contact the editor to lift a ban on specific chapters, which is too troublesome. However, I still have the right to modify the newly released VIP chapters within a certain period of time. So I will go through it again after publishing to fix the typos. But more often, the author will post it after coding, and continue coding after publishing, so there is a high probability that he will still have no time to modify it. At this time, it depends on the little angel's eyes that are good at discovering. Dai-yuns, the Duchess has been deceiving me from beginning to end. I hate her, I hate Tang Hao, I hate this world, and I want to be evil. Tang Liu, I think I am at least a teenager or 20 years old. It's not necessary to have a second-year disease. You Hao, brother, don't be sad. I will help you teach the bad guys a lesson in the future. Dai-yuns, yes, when my heart is filled with endless darkness, my younger brother is the only light. P.S. If it was in Xinjiang, I should add a sentence at this time. This is a story of mutual redemption 23,333, but this is just a little spoof theater. Chapter 406 Dragon Emperor. The black energy had almost reached Dai-yuns. The smile on the old man's face became cruel and ferocious. But the next moment, a figure appeared in front of Dai-yuns out of thin air. With just a light cold snort, the black soul light ball dissipated. Then, the old man also groaned and staggered back a step. The cruelty on his face turned into horror. He looked at the figure that suddenly appeared, and was extremely horrified. It's you, Dragon Emperor Douluo. Aren't you here to help me? But when he looked at the angry and murderous Dragon Emperor Douluo, he realized something in an instant and screamed, no, he lied to me, you are not here to help me at all. At this moment, he had no intention of killing Dai-yuns in his heart. The only thing left was one thought. Escape. But it was obvious that even if he had the cultivation of a soul saint, he could not escape from the hands of Dragon Emperor Douluo. When Dragon Emperor Douluo heard the words screamed by the old man, a hint of understanding flashed in his eyes. But he would not let the old man go just because of this. He pointed at the old man's back, and the next moment, the old man melted and disintegrated in the darkness. He didn't even have time to scream before he died completely. Dragon Emperor Douluo retracted his raised right hand. The whole process was as simple as just patting the dust off his body. He turned around indifferently and looked at Dai-yuns, who was still lying on the ground powerlessly. He said in a cold tone, "Get up, I'll take you to see the Duke of White Tiger." Dai-yuns heard this strange voice and then he reacted a little. He raised his head and looked at the familiar face of Mr. Long in front of him. Coupled with the indifferent expression on the other party's face at this time, the memory that he had not found in his mind emerged at this time. Dragon Emperor Douluo, Long Xiaoyao. It turned out that Mr. Long was the extreme Douluo, who is as famous as Dragon God Douluo Moon, Long Xiaoyao. No wonder he felt a sense of familiarity when looking at Mr. Long. Long Xiaoyao looked at Dai-yuns, who was just staring at him blankly, and his impatience became even stronger. He said coldly, "Get up, come with me to see the Duke of White Tiger." As he spoke, he raised his hand, as if he would force Dai-yuns to take him away if he disagreed. Dai-yuns' hollow eyes showed a little more spirit, and he shook his head violently. No, I can't go to see the Duke of White Tiger. If the Duchess knew that I was not dead, she would definitely kill my mother and you directly. No, I can't go to see the Duke of White Tiger. Long Xiaoyao looked at the incoherent Dai-yuns. Although his face was still indifferent, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. His tone was still cold. What does that have to do with me? If you don't go to see the Duke of White Tiger, then I'll be in trouble. Dai-yuns looked at Long Xiaoyao and gritted his teeth. No, please, don't take me to see the Duke of White Tiger. Long Xiaoyao sneered. I thought you would negotiate with me and let me help you kill the Duchess. Dai-yuns just shook his head. No, I can't. Long Xiaoyao, can't? I'm afraid you don't dare. Right. Dai-yuns did not respond, but just murmured in a low voice, no, I can't, but there is no doubt. He is really scared. The Duchess is like a mountain-like shadow pressing on his heart, and he no longer dares to think of opposing her. He is afraid. Afraid that Toyuner and Yuheo will lose their lives. He lowered his head. No, I can't, I want them to live. Long Xiaoyao looked at Dai-yuns kneeling on the ground, and said with some regret, look at what you look like now. A man. What's the point of kneeling to the heaven, the earth, and your parents? You have twin martial spirits, and you are born with full spirit power. Your future is limitless. A little Duchess scared you like this. Yuns was stunned for a moment by Long Xiaoyao's sudden increase in voice, and then stammered, "But I can't go to see the Duke of White Tiger. If I do, my mother and Yu Hao will die." Long Xiaoyao was so angry that he wanted to slap Yuns twice, but considering that Yuns was only 6 years old after all, and he was angry now, if he didn't control himself and beat him to death, he would really have to take the blame. He didn't have the demeanor of an extreme Douluo at all. He paced in front of Yuns a little irritably, forcing himself to calm down in this way while thinking. Not long after, he stopped and looked at Yuns, who was still kneeling on the ground. There is no doubt that Yuns should be the holy son that her son wanted to find. Although he didn't know why, when he was performing the martial soul awakening ceremony for Yuns, he didn't realize that Yuns was actually an evil soul master. But at least that person didn't deceive him. Yuns was indeed the person he was looking for. Now, as expected, there is another choice in front of him. Take Yuns away, or take Yuns to see the White Tiger Duke. As expected, he was led by the nose again. Long Xiaoyao felt a little angry again. Okay. No matter if you have calculated everything or can predict the future. Don't you just want to play with us and add some fun to your game? Then I won't do what you want me to do. Long Xiaoyao looked at Yuns. His expression was still indifferent, and his tone was still a little stiff. But his attitude seemed to have softened a little. He said, "Although I think you don't seem to have any fighting spirit now. But I ask you, boy, do you still want to kill the Duchess with your own hands?" Yuns looked up at him, stunned for a long time, and then nodded gently. Long Xiaoyao said coldly, "Okay. Then let me ask you, are you willing to worship me as your master and practice with me? I won't keep you in suspense. As long as you are willing, I will teach you everything I know. I dare not say that I can make you the most powerful soul master in the world, but I will definitely let you have a place among the top strong men in the future. At that time, you can kill the Duchess with your own hands, and no one in this world will dare to stop you." Yuns was silent for a long time, until something began to burn slowly in his eyes. It was a flame called revenge. He looked at Long Xiaoyao's eyes and no longer lost his mind. The characteristics of the evil-eyed White Tiger's double pupils also appeared. But the double pupils, one of them was his original blue eye, and the other was a dead gray. It looked very evil and weird. The expression on Yuns's face gradually became firm. But he said, too slow, the fire in the child's eyes burned more and more fiercely. "And I can't wait." Long Xiaoyao had a hint of sarcasm on his face. "If you think you can do it, it's up to you." Yuns no longer hesitated and kowtowed heavily to Long Xiaoyao in front of him. "Master," Tang Liu, calmly, "you think I'm influencing you. You think your choice has escaped my influence. You think the choice you make now has no influence from me." Yuns, shocked face, "Good, awesome, Long Xiaoyao, %%, dirty words." Chapter 407 5 years. Duke's Mansion. The Duchess read the letter in her hand, and a satisfied smile slowly appeared on her face. Yuns, that evil child, has been confirmed dead. Duke Beihu was furious, but after many days of fruitless searching, he had to give up. Even though Emperor Xingluo had made it clear that the matter would be investigated to the end, he would send people to hunt down all those who participated in the assassination of the Duke's son. Of course, anyone with a discerning eye knew that this was just to cover to appease people's hearts. After all, one of the strongest people in the world was involved in this matter. Dragon Emperor Douluo, Long Xiaoyao. That was almost an existence that ordinary people could not even look up to. What's more, if an extreme Douluo really wanted the life of a duke's son, even if Xingluo was unwilling, it would be helpless. Moreover, even if Xingluo really wanted to investigate, it would be impossible to find an extreme Douluo who was determined to hide. There was no other reason, it was just that the gap in strength was too huge. Therefore, after hastily finishing the matter, Duke Beihu sent a letter of condolence to the Duchess. After all, in the Duke of White Tiger's cognition, the Duchess was the one who kindly adopted Yuns. And Yuns, who died, didn't even get a funeral. It was very ironic. The only one who didn't believe that Yuns was dead was Yu Hao. Even though his mother had been crying for a long time, she still had to force a smile to comfort him. "Brother has gone to a better world before us." But Yu Hao just didn't believe it. He believed that his brother would definitely come back. Because his brother promised. He must watch him become the brightest new star of this era. So, Even though he and his mother were driven to live in the woodshed again shortly after his brother left, Yu Hao didn't have any complaints. He just worked harder to practice, determined to become a soul master. Time flies. In a blink of an eye, 2 years have passed. Before the first ray of sunlight from the horizon shone over, Hou Yuner began to wash the clothes of the servants. "Mom, let me help you, I'm grown up and can help you with work." The 8-year-old Yu Hao still looked a little small, a little shorter and thinner than those children of his age. Although they were driven back to the servants' quarters and cut off from their source of income, they still had a small vegetable garden by the river left by Dai Yun's. So their lives did not become more difficult. But the mother and son were very careful, fearing that the ladies' men would know about the river and the existence of the small vegetable garden. They could all guess that if they were discovered, they would probably never be able to leave the Duke's mansion again. So for the past 2 years, even though they knew there were plenty of fish in the river, the mother and son rarely went there. This may be the reason why Yu Hao looks thinner now. In short, the 8-year-old Yu Hao carried the large wooden basin full of wet clothes that was extremely inconsistent with his body shape, and walked out breathlessly. Hou Yuner had already washed the clothes, and all Yu Hao had to do was hang them up to dry. Hou Yuner looked at Yu Hao's small back and couldn't help laughing. Her Yu Hao had really grown up. Yu Hao held the wooden basin and thought to himself, "Brother, I always remember what you said. Don't worry, I will definitely take good care of my mother." So he couldn't help but be distracted. The next moment. "Asshole, don't you have eyes? Didn't you see the young master is back? Get out of the way." Yu Hao felt that he was kicked hard, and then he fell to the ground with the wooden basin. The clothes that had been washed were scattered all over the ground. Yu Hao endured the pain in his body and looked in the direction of the arrogant voice. There were 8 strong guards, surrounding a young man wearing a white costume with python embroidery. The young man was very handsome, with double pupils in his eyes. His temperament was high and noble. He looked cold and didn't even look at Yu Hao, who was lying on the side, until his foot stepped on a piece of muddy clothes. "Huh?" The boy stopped and looked at Yu Hao with cold eyes. "Hit me." After saying that, he walked away quickly, as if he was afraid of dirtying his eyes. The 8 guards received the order, and 2 of them came out immediately, punching and kicking Yu Hao fiercely. How could Yu Hao, who was only 8 years old, fight back when he was beaten by 2 strong adults? He could only curl up tightly. Hou Yuner, who heard the noise, also ran out. Seeing such a scene, she was naturally horrified. But she was just a weak woman. She could only use her body to protect Yu Hao tightly and beg bitterly. In the end, she was still beaten to death. The guards left. Hou Yuner supported Yu Hao and brought him home. Then it seemed that she had used up all her strength. She fell ill and never got up again. Yu Hao looked at his mother, who was in extreme pain on the bed, his face and eyes full of confusion. "Brother, where are you? What should I do?" Another 2 years. After Hou Yuner persisted for so long, she still couldn't survive the torture of illness and died suddenly. But before leaving, the mother still gently stroked Yu Hao's tearful face and told him softly, "Don't be afraid, Yu Hao's mother is just going to find your brother. You must live well. Without me, you must take good care of yourself." Yu Hao wiped the tears from his face as much as he could, quietly carried his mother's body out of the Duke's mansion, found a hidden place to bury her with his own hands. Then he sat in front of the extremely simple tomb and cried all night. After returning to the Duke's mansion again, the handsome boy seemed to have a fire in his eyes. "Mom, brother, I will become the most dazzling new star in this world. And then I will avenge you." 1 year later, the back door on the north side of the Duke's mansion opened quietly, and a thin figure quietly slipped out. It is said that Duke Beihu will return to the Duke's mansion from the front line soon. But so what? He has now cultivated to level 10, and it is time to leave this Duke's mansion that has only left him with painful darkness in his life. He wants to become a soul master. And he wants to become the most powerful soul master in the world. Hou Hao took one last look, with a strong hatred, at the glazed tiles and golden roof of the Duke's mansion. "Mom, brother, your spirits in heaven are watching. No matter how hard I try, one day, I will come back and trample everything here under my feet." The Duchess looked at the handsome man walking towards her and smiled gently. "How, you are back?" The White Tiger Duke nodded gently, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, showing an apologetic look. "I'm sorry, I made you wait alone for so long." The Duchess held Dai Hao's rough hand and was extremely gentle. "No, national affairs should be put first. I support you at all times. Dai Hao chuckled and said, Madam, you understand. The Duchess just looked at the man in front of her with affection. Yes, yes, after so many years, a couple who finally reunited, what should they do at this time? The atmosphere in the main hall seemed a little charming. But one of the White Tiger guards of the White Tiger Duke suddenly rushed in, looking anxious and a little surprised. General, there's a child outside. Chapter 408, The End. As soon as the White Tiger guard finished speaking, a young man in a black robe slowly walked to the entrance of the main hall. The boy looked only 11 or 12 years old, with neat short hair that was mainly golden, but a bit dark and black. He also had a pair of deep blue eyes with double pupils. When his eyes were focused on a certain place, his pupils would open and close in a strange way. He was very handsome, and his appearance seemed to be somewhat evil. But that evil did not destroy the boy's handsomeness, but added a fatal attraction to it. Especially when the boy grinned, that evil was enough to make people fascinated. The boy was nearly 1.7 meters tall, and he even revealed a fierce aura. He looked very much like the man in the main hall, both in appearance and in the temperament of having been on the battlefield. The boy looked at the frowning White Tiger Duke and the bewildered Duchess beside the White Tiger Duke, and grinned again. His tone sounded unusually elegant and frivolous. Nice to meet you, Your Excellency the Duke. The young man leaned forward slightly, performed a noble etiquette, and looked at Dai Hao with his eyes. Although he had a smile on his face, there was no emotion in his eyes. My name is Dai Yuns, your biological son. Without waiting for Dai Hao to speak, the young man turned his gaze to the Duchess, who was shocked and looked extremely ugly. Suddenly, the smile on the young man's face became deeper, and his eyes, which had been emotionless, instantly smiled. Because only in this way could he hide the murderous intent and hatred that were bursting out. He smiled deeply and said, Long time no see. The last sentence turned into a low moan in his mouth. Mother, the Duchess's face looked as ugly as if she had eaten shit. The martial spirit was also displayed, and the blood test was done. Dai Hao finally believed that he was the Dai Yuns who died 5 years ago. Facing the questioning, Dai Yuns still maintained his smile and said calmly, It was my teacher, Dragon Emperor Douluo, who saved me from the evil soul master and took me to practice for 5 years. After that, the matter seemed to be over. Dai Yuns became the young master of the Duke's mansion and enjoyed a life of luxury. As a general of a country, Dai Hao stayed in the mansion for a few days and then rushed back to the front line. And on the day Dai Hao left, Dai Yuns came to the main hall and found the Duchess. Even though many days had passed, the Duchess's face was extremely ugly every time she saw Dai Yuns. Because Dai Hao was still there, Dai Yuns always greeted the Duchess with a smile. But this time, he just played with a porcelain bottle in his hand, walked into the main hall with an indifferent expression, and looked at the Duchess with disgust and hatred in his eyes. It was even stronger than those hidden in his heart and dared not show in the past few days. Just because he saw that small grave. Although Dai Hao had personally sent someone to repair the tomb, he had to pretend that he didn't know it and could only watch quietly from the side. The Duchess seemed to want to put on a smile, but she couldn't do it after trying many times. Finally, she just said with disgust, What do you want from me? Dai Yuns tossed the porcelain bottle in his hand and sneered, Nothing, just taking your life. Madame also sneered, Relying on your cultivation of a 3-ring soul master. Dai Yuns shook his finger. I don't need to use my spiritual eyes to deal with you, madam. Do you think I should use your evil-eyed white tiger that doesn't even have a soul ring attached to it? To be honest, I never thought that you were not dead, and you still have a twin martial soul. If I had known before, I would definitely not let you die like this. After all, I know what a twin martial soul means. Although I am doing this for my own child, I am also aware of the overall situation. Dai Yuns laughed sarcastically. Why, are you starting to get scared? Are you going to reason with me? He then shook his head. Sorry, showing weakness can't save you. Just like our weakness in the past couldn't win you a bit of pity. In addition, I also have something to say to you. He showed that evil and sarcastic smile again. Naivety will cost a price. Naively thought he was dead. Naively thought that he couldn't kill her. Madame suddenly showed an extremely decadent smile and said, Yes, I am too naive. She laughed bitterly. I actually naively believed that all the transactions of that person were to help me. Dai Yuns frowned slightly. The lady looked at the porcelain bottle in Dai Yuns' hand. What's in it? If I'm not mistaken, it should be some kind of poison, right, Dai Yuns, just like you threatened me before. After being poisoned by it, you will die slowly, and you may even live for more than 10 years, but you will definitely die, and no one will suspect me." The lady laughed again, and said with empty eyes, "Sure enough, he is right. You don't have to let me eat the things in the porcelain bottle again. Because I have taken it once." Dai Yuns frowned. "Do you think I will believe you?" The lady laughed. Dai Yuns, I thought that all my transactions were God's help to me, and it was a gift from the gods to me, but now I finally understand that we are just stepping stones prepared for you." Dai Yuns asked her coldly, "Who are you referring to?" The lady laughed at him. "You really don't know, Dai Yuns? Let me think. When was the first time? He told me to go to the main hall and get a brush used by the Duke of White Tiger. Then what did I see? I saw the Duke of White Tiger, him, my man. He was actually doing something shameful with your mother's bitch," Dai Yun said coldly. "Watch your words." The lady laughed. "Anyway, I'm going to die, what's there to care about?" she continued. "The second time, when was the second time?" "Oh, it seemed that he asked me to go to the pharmacy to get a herb. Guess what I saw this time? I saw that bitch. She gave birth to 2 children, then there was the third, fourth, and countless transactions. He even gave me a perfect way to deal with you, even if you awakened the evil-eyed white tiger. But what was the result? You, who were doomed to die in his words, still appeared in front of me intact. From that moment on, I understood that everything was a scam. He was never helping me, but helping you. Helping you, this evil seed." The lady was extremely emotional, pointing at Dai Yun's nose and cursing. Dai Yun quickly sorted out all the information, and then basically connected all the things. Yes, that young man. He should have thought of it earlier. The lady panted violently, sat down again, and calmed down for a long time before she laughed bitterly and said, "Dai Yun, I'm just a mother who wants my child to be well." Dai Yun still remembered how helpless he was, so no matter what, he would not have the slightest pity for the Duchess. But he still took back the porcelain bottle in his hand, and one of his pupils suddenly turned into a dead gray. He stared at the Duchess, like a corpse with eyes open. Dai Yun said in a deep voice, "I will not give you poison again, but I curse you in the name of the most evil and dark shadow." He paused, and finally said in a sonorous voice, "You will perish from the most painful disease in the world, and you will be taken to the most sinister hell by death without blessings and prayers. You will not die well." It was still in front of the stone tablet engraved with mysterious runes. Dai Yun stared at one of the runes, then put his hand on it. "It's time to get an answer." Dang. The pre-plot of Douluo 2 is over. The next chapter is the introduction to the main text of Douluo 2, which is the summary of all the pre-plots from Tang Liu's perspective, and writes out all the connections. Of course, the first thing Tang Liu, who has slept for 10,000 years, misses is his father, mother, and brother, Doge. Tang Liu, Dad Tang Hao, furious, "I'm not dead yet." Chapter 409 All Connections. Huh? With a short and rapid inhalation, Tang Liu suddenly opened his eyes. He lay quietly for a while, then stood up and looked around. This seemed to be an endless space. The whole space was a strange blue-black color. Whether it was the sky, the sun, or the ground, it seemed to be covered with a layer of blue-black filter. Tang Liu paused for a moment, and understood. He succeeded in getting out. Tang Liu breathed a sigh of relief, and after readapting to all his abilities, he disappeared in this space. Now is not the time to rest, he still has one last thing to do. And the place he came to was Xinghe City, an important town in the South China Sea of the Xingluo Empire. The moment he appeared on the beach, the current information of the world flooded into his mind. He was slightly stunned. Has it been a year? But then, he shook his head gently and looked at the countless huge ships in the sea. It's only been a year. Next, he still has a long time to endure. 6,000 years later, the island on the west coast, which could be seen from the coastline hundreds of years ago, has become zero distance from Douluo continent today. It was at this time that the people on Douluo continent suddenly realized that it was not an island. It was another continent. Moreover, the people on this continent did not seem to intend to live in peace with him. So the war broke out suddenly. That was the first show of the Soul Master on Douluo continent. As a result, the Soul Master defeated the army on Douluo continent. And the first sect on that continent, Tang sect, declined. After that, the first collision between Soul Masters and Soul Masters took place, and in the end, the Soul Masters on Douluo continent were better. The one who brought all Douluo Soul Masters together was an owner of the ultimate fire martial spirit. And he was born in Shrek Academy. Since then, Shrek Academy has gradually become the first academy on the continent. The Xiangdao Empire split, and the Xingluo Empire changed its owner. Everything happened step by step according to the established history. Tang Liu was surrounded by blue-black light, isolating him in a special space, allowing him to walk in the wreckage of the border battlefield. At present, it seems that everything has not deviated from the original track. He can also go back to sleep without worry. 9,000 years later, the evil eye tyrant ruler who was sleeping in the core of the evil forest suddenly woke up today. It was only because he felt an extremely pure and more powerful spiritual power than him. Following the energy, he came to a lush forest with green trees. Below was a blue lake full of life. And when he appeared above the lake, many powerful auras were revealed from the depths of the lake at the same time. Then a huge golden-eyed black dragon head poked out from the lake and looked at the blood-red eyes of the evil eye tyrant ruler. The pupils of the evil eye tyrant ruler shrank suddenly when he saw the black dragon head. The aura coming from the other party was stronger than him. It means that just afterwards, the evil eye tyrant ruler's eyes moved away from the huge black dragon head, and his eyes passed through the layers of barriers and fell under the lake, hiding a huge silkworm with a white body and 10 golden lines on its body. His pupils shrank again. That is, the man was talking about that kind of blue-black light. Tang Liu was in the realm of Hao and magic, and no one in the universe could find him. He looked up at a black dragon fighting fiercely in the sky, and a huge eyeball with tentacles, and then captured a spiritual signal. As long as you merge with me, with my nearly 800,000 years of cultivation, plus your real million-year level spiritual power, we may not be unable to reach the level of God. Obviously, this was the spiritual message that the evil eye tyrant ruler conveyed to the Xianmeng ice silkworm. Everything is still in accordance with the arrangement of history, step by step. Tang Liu nodded with satisfaction and went back to sleep with peace of mind. One day, Tang Liu opened his eyes in the blue-black space and woke up from his sleep. His eyes were filled with blue-black dim light at that moment, and then he looked in one direction. His eyes passed through the blue-black space, through the sky, through countless stars and finally came to the edge of the universe. There, a soul belonging to another world quietly appeared there. He couldn't help but smile slightly, and then stretched his body. He had slept for so long. It was time to work. Zhongliwu had been looking for that person for a long time. At first, it was just a legend that was circulated among the people and was not confirmed. Until later, he personally killed a person who had actually made a deal with that person. Following those clues, he finally came to a stone tablet. Then in a space full of strange blue-black light, he saw the young man who seemed to be immortal. The young man smiled and said to him, "Make a deal, tell your mother about my existence, and then I will give you a way to become a god." Zhongliwu completed this simple request and received his reward. As long as he finds the 2 saint sons and 2 saint daughters, it will be his chance to become a god. Yizishu didn't know if that was true, but she still followed those clues to this blue-black space. The young man looked at her with a smile. "Make a deal. Tell your old lover Dragon Emperor Douluo Longzhiao that you really want to help your son find the son of the Holy Spirit Church, and then I will tell you a way to change your past." After trying to do it but being completely abused, Yizishu honestly agreed. Longzhiao followed the clues to the Duke's mansion and found the stone tablet and the strange blue-black space. In the space, the young man smiled and said to him, "Play a trading game with me and stay in the Duke's mansion for 4 years. Longzhiao completed the transaction and received a pair of dragon wing external soul bones as a reward. According to the rules, he also made his own transaction request to the young man. "I want to know where the person I am looking for is." The young man smiled slightly. "I want you to appear at this coordinate point in the Mingdao Mountains in a month, and then release your martial soul body once when you feel the evil attribute aura." Longzhiao, is this considered the second transaction? The young man kept smiling. "Since you don't have anything I want, and you took away a pair of external soul bones that I cherish very much from me, I can only use a transaction request as my deserved reward." Longzhiao, "Then it's a deal. But my transaction request," the young man smiled, "the person you are looking for is at the coordinates I gave you." The Duchess touched the stone tablet and came to this blue-black space. There was a young man smiling at her. "Play a trading game with me. Tonight, you help me get a pen used by the Duke of White Tiger from the main hall." The Duchess did as she was told, then came in with a pale face and made her own request. "What should I do?" The young man smiled. "Simple." Then the second and third time, the Duchess, "Tell me, What will happen tomorrow? The young man smiled again, simple, the fourth time. The Duchess, what should I do to make that evil seed disappear perfectly from this world? The young man still had that smile, simple. Then he took out a white porcelain bottle and said the reward he wanted, I want you to take the medicine in it. The Duchess swallowed it without hesitation. The smile on the young man's face deepened a little, and then he gave her a perfect method. In the pavilion, Tang Liu looked at Yuns in front of him, spread his hands, and curled his lips slightly. This is all you want to know, a large network of interconnectedness that he spent a little time to build. Oh, yes, there is also the old evil soul master, but he is dispensable, so I won't say much, Tang Liu said with a smile as if he had suddenly realized something. Restudy completed. Tomorrow, the main text of Douluo will officially begin. As soon as it arrives, it will be Shrek Academy. Yu Hao looked at Huobin next to his brother and showed an extremely incomprehensible and jealous look, crossed out. The author is planning to play Resident Evil 6 recently, but he is a little scared, but I heard that Resident Evil 6 seems to be able to connect online. Hint, see you tomorrow. Chapter 410 Enrollment. As the #1 academy on the continent, Shrek Academy is always crowded during the enrollment season. In addition to a large number of children of school age from the original Douluo Three Kingdoms, there are also many parents who come with them. Similarly, there are teachers and students who are responsible for receiving the new students who come to register. There are long queues outside several reception points. Even though the area of Shrek City is not smaller than the capitals of the four empires, the city has become more bustling than usual. The reputation of the #1 academy on the continent is well known, so the children who dare to come here to register must meet the assessment standards of Shrek, not older than 12 years old, and with a soul power level of more than 15 levels. But there are some exceptions in Shrek Academy, that is, Shrek Academy provides special enrollment quotas for those powerful sects and families. For example, the Tang sect founded by Tang San, the third of the first generation of Shrek Seven Devils, the 9 treasure-glazed sect where Ningrongrong, the sixth of the first generation of Shrek Seven Devils, came from, and the family of Daimyo Bei, the leader of the first generation of Shrek Seven Devils, is now the lineage of the White Tiger Duke. Even for the now declining Tang sect, Shrek Academy still reserves a special enrollment quota for it every year. The so-called special enrollment means that you can enter Shrek Academy directly without taking the entrance examination or even meeting the entrance examination requirements. Of course, if the special enrollment fails to pass the freshman assessment 3 months after enrollment, you will still be expelled. Yuns is a special enrollment student. It was arranged by Duke Beihu before he left the Duke's mansion and returned to the front line. Although with his current cultivation, he would definitely pass even if he applied directly. Like him, Huobin also entered Shrek Academy through the special enrollment quota. In theory, he is his half-brother in this world. But he is also the biggest murderer of Huoyun's death. When Hao was still in the Duke's mansion, Yuns had already met Huobin. That guy wanted to challenge him because he was not convinced by Hao's praise for him, but was stopped by Hao. Since Hao was still there, Yuns, who agreed to certain conditions, could only maintain a very friendly appearance towards Huobin. But it must be said that it was disgusting. Yuns walked past the teams that had signed up and entered Shrek Academy. Passing through the spacious and imposing gate, he saw 3 huge statues. The first one was naturally the first dean of Shrek Academy, the four-eyed cat owl Flanders. The middle-aged statue on Flanders' left was naturally the master Uzia Gang, who was known for his invincible theory. The middle-aged beautiful woman on the master's right was naturally Liu Erlong. These 3 people not only co-founded Shrek Academy 10,000 years ago, but also cultivated the first generation of Shrek Seven Devils, and were also the famous Golden Iron Triangle 10,000 years ago. The moment he saw the 3 statues, Yuns heard a voice in his mind. Sure enough, Teacher Zhao doesn't deserve to have a name, the voice said with a smile. Yuns was stunned, then asked in his heart, Teacher Zhao? Are you talking about Zhao Wuji? The voice said, Yes, Yuns said in his heart with great certainty, you are indeed related to the Shrek Seven Devils 10,000 years ago. But, who are you? The voice smiled, didn't I tell you about this a long time ago? My surname is Tang, and my meaning here is you. Although I still don't understand why they would hand over such an ordinary child to me, Yuns couldn't quite understand the meaning of this sentence. He always felt that it seemed to contain a lot of information, but he couldn't analyze it. But he still said, even if I am now Do I still belong to the category of ordinary in your eyes? There seemed to be some deep meaning hidden in the smile of that voice. The reason why you are like this now is not voluntary, but the hatred in your heart forces you to become like this. Have you ever thought about it? If one day in the future, the hatred in your heart is gone, then who will you be at that time, and what will you be now? Dai Yuns immediately retorted, no matter what, I am me. No matter how much I change, I am still me. The voice laughed and said, I hope so. But now is not the time to talk about this with you. You go find a dormitory by yourself. I'll go around for a walk. Dai Yuns was stunned. Aren't you afraid of being discovered? The voice snorted. The moment good and evil change people, I don't have to worry about being discovered. Dai Yuns continued to walk forward, and then saw the statue of the first generation of Shrek 7 Devils. His eyes first swept over the tall and handsome young man with the word king on his forehead, and then fell directly on the young man who was ranked third and the most handsome. Then he said in his heart, aren't you afraid of him? The voice smiled in an ambiguous way, as if sneering or teasing, although there are two gods, there is still a gap between goodness and evil. Otherwise, why do you think you can come to this world smoothly? Dai Yuns didn't quite understand. What do you mean? The voice, nothing, I'm leaving. Dai Yuns, hello. Hello? Hey, leaving now. After shouting in his heart for a long time without receiving a response, Dai Yuns shook his head helplessly, and finally glanced at the statue of the first generation of Shrek 7 Devils, and then walked towards the dormitory building. What he didn't notice was that not long after he walked away, an illusory figure stayed where he had just stood, looking up at the statue ranked third. It was Tang Liu. His expression became a little cold, and his tone was like questioning, and also like self-mocking. I still sympathize with Teacher Zhao, but I am also a guy who doesn't deserve to have a name. So, you are hiding your history, right? After being silent for a moment, Tang Liu smiled softly, turned to look at the statue ranked first, and said with a smile, don't worry, everything is fine here. After saying that, he walked away and slowly walked over following Dai Yuns' trail. After a while, he saw the old man leaning on the recliner in front of the freshman dormitory building and greeted him. Just like him, Dai Yuns, who is familiar with the plot of Douluo, naturally knows the true identity of the seemingly inconspicuous old man. Seeing this, Tang Liu smiled softly. No matter what he said, Dai Yuns was just a child who didn't know the world, but Dai Yuns and he came from the same world after all, and he still felt a little familiar. It's a pity that perhaps in order to make his assessment more difficult, those people tampered with Dai Yuns' soul, causing him to be unable to fully see Dai Yuns' past. It was a bit difficult at the beginning, and I held it in for a long time. That's all for today. Dao may second be a bit daily for Tang Liu. Dao 3, which is currently being conceived, is almost all daily. Dao 3 will not involve a lot, but it will reach the end of Dao 3, then the end of this book is not far away. Chapter 411 Roommate. When Dai Yuns walked into the dormitory building, Tang Liu also happened to walk to the old man sitting in front of the recliner, then stopped, leaned over slightly, looked at the old man's wrinkled and extremely old appearance, and said twice, it's only been a few hundred years, how come he has become so old? Look at your good friend Long Xiaoyao, who is the same age as you, and now he looks like a middle-aged man? Although this is also due to the fact that he took a life-extending fruit from me, is it really that the poison of that guy Du BC is too strong? The old man seemed to have noticed something, raised his muddy yellow eyes, and looked in front of him. But there was nothing in front of him, except for the students who came in and out of the dormitory. The old man lowered his eyes again and took a nap in the sun. Tang Liu also left the old man at this time, but did not go into the dormitory building to find Dai Yuns. After all, he was not Dai Yuns' personal nanny, but came to the shore of Poseidon Lake, looking at the small island in the middle of the lake from the shore. Or rather, looking at the golden tree on the island. Tang Liu hesitated for a moment, but still tiptoed and slowly flew towards the island. Although he knew it was not now. But what if? What if they were already in sight at this time? Above the island in the lake, Tang Liu looked at the empty interior of the golden tree, except for the golden light of the sea god. He was silent for a long time, and then murmured to himself, maybe I should go back to sleep and wake up after sleeping for 10,000 years. He shook his head gently, turned around and flew away. But while flying, he suddenly paused, and then slapped his cheeks. No, I am more than 10,000 years old, I can't be so homesick. Shame on you. Dai Yuns' dormitory is room 204, on the second floor. When he opened the door and walked in, he found that there was already a boy about his age sitting on the bed reading a book. When the two saw each other, they were both slightly stunned. Then the boy who was sitting on the bed reading a book immediately closed the book, stood up and looked at Dai-Yun's with a smile, saying in a friendly manner, "Hello, my name is Tang Qing. It seems that we will be roommates in the future." Dai-Yun's also replied in a friendly manner, "Hello, my name is Dai-Yun's. Please take care of me in the future." The boy named Tang Qing had black hair and black eyes. His appearance was not very handsome, but he was very attractive and had a bookish air. After hearing Dai-Yun's self-introduction, he was slightly stunned, then nodded and smiled and said, "Of course. Oh, by the way, which class were you assigned to?" "I'm in the 5th freshman class." Dai-Yun's made an expression of surprise and joy. "I'm also in the 5th freshman class. What a coincidence." At present, the class division of Shrek Academy is still based on the order of registration. Dai-Yun's came relatively late, and today was also the last day for Shrek Academy's freshmen to register. Of course, the reason why he came on time was also because he didn't want to run into Yu Hao. He still didn't know how to face Yu Hao. Tang Qing smiled shyly and said, "In fact, from the point of view that we are in the same dormitory, it is basically certain that we are in the same class. I just asked to confirm." "I hope you don't mind." Dai-Yun shook his head and said, "It's okay." Then he started to pack his things. Tang Qing didn't mean to disturb him. He sat back on his bed and continued to open the book in his hand and read. After Dai-Yun's made the bed, he suddenly stared at the prayer bead storage soul guide on his wrist. This storage soul guide was given to him by Long Xiaoyao. There are a total of 13 beads, and each bead has a storage space of 5 cubic meters. And in one of the prayer beads, there is a quilt with high-quality fabrics. He prepared it for Yu Hao. But how should he give it away? And there's this thing called soul coins. Yu Hao must not have much money on him, and the prices in Shrek Academy must be higher than outside, so he must not have a good meal again. Dai-Yun felt a headache when he thought of this. Then, the voice of the young man suddenly sounded in his mind. "I do have a way, do you want to listen to it?" Dai-Yun was stunned for a moment, and then replied in his heart, "Are you done shopping?" The voice of the young man, that is, Tang Liu, said, "I just took a look. I came here decades ago. It's not much different from now. There's nothing to see." Nodding slightly, Dai-Yun got to the point. "You don't want me to help you with the method you mentioned?" Tang Liu laughed softly and said, "I thought I had made it very clear that day that the trading game between us is over." Dai-Yun still felt a little incredible and frightened when he thought about it now. After all, such a guy who calculated so many people together just for him was really too scary. "It's because you have a criminal record." Tang Liu smiled and said, "I'm not smart, I just know more things, and then use them reasonably." Just like he knew that Zhongli Wu wanted to become a god, so he used this to lure Zishu out. Knowing that Zishu was unwilling to accept it, he used this to lead Long Xiaoyao. Knowing that Long Xiaoyao has a deep affection for Zishu, he can use this to get in touch with Dai-Yun. Although Tang Liu was able to do this because he had plot advantage, to a greater extent, it was because he had enough strength. If someone else came here and had the same strength as him, he would probably be able to achieve the same level. Dai-Yun shook his head. "Your strength alone is enough to make me afraid." After all, he remembered that after Long Xiaoyao took him away from the Mingdashan Mountains, he said he wanted to beat someone up, and then he came back with an ugly expression. He took him to get the first soul ring in a very aggrieved manner. Dai-Yun's current mind is the same as Tang Liu, so when Dai-Yun recalled this memory, Tang Liu also saw the relevant fragments in his memory at the same time. Well, how to say it? Xian Long Xiaoyao rushed into a small space with great momentum. Without saying a word, he wanted to destroy his wooden house with the true body of the martial soul and the 9th soul skill. Then Tang Liu, like the first time he met Dai-Yun, used hail and teleport to play Long Xiaoyao around, and then sealed his martial spirit, and divided a small area in that small space, letting Long Xiaoyao fall freely for 30 minutes. In the end, Long Xiaoyao naturally failed to destroy his wooden house or beat him up, and could only sit in front of him and listen to him chattering non-stop. Of course, after all, he used her a little too much, almost second only to the Duchess, so Tang Liu also gave Long Xiaoyao some compensation. "Yesterday I was stuck on the plot. And today I was stuck on the characters again. I need to think carefully about the other plots of the dour part besides the main plot, freshman assessment, Soul Master Academy competition and other battles. It seems that I only thought of these when I conceived it. In addition to Dai Yun's, there is another character who belongs to Tang Liu's team, not original, a dour original character, and I need to think carefully about how to add it. See you tomorrow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 412 Freshman Class 5. Dai Yun's asked curiously, compensation? What did you give him, Tang Liu? The storage device you are using now, Dai Yun's. Well, it turns out that the thing finally came into his hands. Dai Yun seemed to know why Long Xiao's face was so ugly after he came back that day. However, Dai Yun's did not question Tang Liu's name for the rosary on his wrist, or he did not care at all. Otherwise, he might have guessed something from it. Now Dai Yun's is most concerned about the method that Tang Liu mentioned. Then tell me now, what should I do? Tang Liu smiled and said, it is not easy for you to give the things to Hou Hao, so why not let others pass them to him? Dai Yun's was stunned for a moment, then nodded slightly, obviously agreeing with this method. You are right, I can find someone to pass the things to Hou Hao. But who should I find? Bibai, Tang Yak? Or Wang Dong? Tang Liu said with a smile, hey, I'm not your golden finger grandfather, or the system or something, don't ask me everything. You should think about how to do such a small matter yourself. Dai Yun's curled his lips, tisk, it's better to continue that trading game. Tang Liu also chuckled, that trading game is just a cover. But although it has stopped, I also told you that it has actually changed from trading to your task. So do you still remember your first task? Dai Yun's rolled his eyes and said, remember, isn't it just to come to Shrek Academy to study? I have completed this task. Tang Liu smiled and said, don't relax too early. As long as you haven't passed the freshman assessment, you are not a true member of Shrek. Dai Yun's narrowed his eyes, if I can't even beat those freshmen, Long Xiao will have taught me in vain, and I won't have the face to tell others that I was taught by the Dark Dragon Emperor, one of the black and white twin holy dragons. Tang Liu, don't forget, there are 3 soul lords among the freshmen. If you don't use your second martial soul, and only rely on your spiritual eyes, do you think you can defeat them? Even if you can, what about Dai Hulbin and Zulu's nether white tiger? Can you defeat them? Dai Yun's was a little dissatisfied. The god-eating evil eye white demon tiger is originally my own martial soul. Why can't I use it? Tang Liu laughed twice. Really? Dai Yun's didn't hear what he said for a long time, so he was a little puzzled and a little uneasy. What do you mean? Tang Liu said with a faint smile. You will know later. Dai Yun's was choked, frowned, and complained in a low voice. I hate riddlers like you the most. Hearing this, Tang Liu just smiled and said nothing more. At this time, Dai Yun's roommate, Tang Qing, also spoke up. It's time for dinner. Do you want to go eat together? Dai Yun's came back to his senses, looked at Tang Qing and smiled, without refusing. Okay, you lead the way. I don't know where the cafeteria is. Today is the day when Shrek Academy officially opens. Dai Yun's and Tang Qing went to the classroom of the freshman class 5 early and sat together waiting for class. About half an hour later, all the students in their freshman class 5 arrived in the classroom. Then, after 2 or 3 minutes, the class bell rang, and their head teacher also walked in at the same time. He was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s. He had a rather ordinary appearance, with a smile on his face, and no imposing manner. In short, he looked very friendly. He first glanced at the whole class, and after confirming that everyone was there, he smiled and said, hello, my name is Wang Yan, and I am your current head teacher. After hearing what he said, Dai Yun's was also slightly stunned and felt a little surprised. After all, in Devon 2, Wang Yan was also a very important character in the early stage. I didn't expect that he would become the head teacher of a freshman class, and it happened to be in his class. On the podium, Wang Yan paused and continued, although I am only the temporary head teacher of class 5 now, and you will not all stay in class 5 in the future, I still want to say that our class has given me a lot of surprises. At this point, Wang Yan stopped, and then his eyes swept over the students below. The faces of the students were also curious, quietly waiting for his next words. Wang Yan smiled, and then said, Dai Hulbin, Dai Yun's, stand up. When his name was called, Dai Yun's was slightly stunned, then stood up, looking at Wang Yan on the podium in a daze. And standing up with him, there was another blonde boy sitting in the first row. The boy was as tall as Dai-yun's, with a handsome and indifferent face. And the iconic double pupils in his blue eyes. He's Dai Huolbin. When Dai Huolbin stood up, he did not look at Wang Yan on the podium at the first time. Instead, he turned around and glanced at Dai-yun's. Dai-yun's was not surprised by Dai Huolbin's appearance. After all, he and Dai Huolbin set out from the Duke's mansion on the same day and arrived at Shrek Academy on the same day. The registration time was not much different, so it was normal for them to be assigned to the same class. Moreover, before the class, he also noticed Dai Huolbin walking in from the classroom door, but Dai Huolbin did not notice him. Of course, Dai-yun's also noticed a girl with a cat-like temperament sitting next to Dai Huolbin. She walked into the classroom with Dai Huolbin before. Dai-yun's was sure that the girl was Douluo. But just like he had no reaction when Dai Huolbin entered the classroom, even if Dai Huolbin turned around and looked at him at this time, Dai-yun still chose to ignore Dai Huolbin and just looked at Wang Yan on the podium. Dai Huolbin saw that Dai-yun's eyes were not on him at all, and he also understood what Dai-yun's meant. His expression became even colder, and a flash of hostility flashed in his eyes. Then he turned around and looked at Wang Yan on the podium. He was the second son of the Duke of White Tiger, and the most talented child of the Duke of White Tiger before. He could even fuse his spirit with the daughter of the Zhou family. Until the appearance of Dai-yun's. This half-brother who suddenly appeared. All his glory was taken away in an instant. The Duke of White Tiger even praised Dai-yun's. He even had the intention of training Dai-yun's with all his strength. Dai Huolbin, who was trained as the heir to the Duke's throne since he was a child, naturally couldn't stand such a gap. So he had been secretly competing with Dai-yun's, although they had only known each other for a few days. But Dai-yun's always turned a blind eye to him, which made Dai Huolbin feel extremely angry, because in his opinion, Dai-yun's was obviously looking down on him. Dai Huolbin swore in his heart that he must defeat Dai-yun's with his own hands, and then step on Dai-yun's hard. Dai-yun's roommate is just a supporting role. Kid shy means shy and embarrassed. Both boys and girls can use this word, and Tang Qing's context is because he feels that he is a little indirect, and he is afraid that Dai-yun's will be unhappy because of this, so he feels a little embarrassed. There is no cross-dressing, really not, he is really just a boy. I wrote this chapter today from morning to afternoon, holding my head. Fortunately, the freshman assessment is coming soon, it should be easier to write. The author has been working hard on typing, occasionally writing a few words to scare himself and change his mind. Doghead. Chapter 413 Class 5 Monitor. Wang Yan looked back and forth between the two boys who looked similar, and then smiled and said, "You two are both special recruits of Shrek Academy, and your spirit power is the highest among the freshmen this year. So, one of you will be the monitor of our freshman Class 5. Dai Huolbin's eyes lit up, thinking that this was a good opportunity to compete with Dai-yun's and prove himself. He immediately wanted to speak up and challenge Dai-yun's in front of Wang Yan. But just as he opened his mouth, he heard Dai-yun's voice behind him, "Teacher Wang, I am not very interested in being the monitor, so I won't participate." Dai Huolbin looked back reflexively, and his eyes fell on Dai-yun's, who had a faint expression and a smile on his lips. But Dai-yun's was still the same, not even looking at Dai Huolbin. It was as if all his competitiveness was a joke. Dai Huolbin clenched his fists tightly, and then loosened them. He was scared. He must not dare to compete with me. Wang Yan spoke at this time, and he nodded slightly. "Okay, in this case, Dai Huolbin will be the monitor of our Class 5. After that, he signaled Dai-yun's and Dai Huolbin to sit down. Dai-yun sat back immediately, and Dai Huolbin looked at Dai-yun's fiercely, and then sat down reluctantly. After that, Wang Yan smiled and said, "Now we are all in the same class, that is, a big family that helps each other. Of course, our Shrek Academy also encourages students to compete with each other to improve everyone's enthusiasm for cultivation. Finally, in order not to waste time, I will not let everyone introduce themselves one by one. I hope everyone can get along well in their spare time." After saying this, Wang Yan began to lecture. This first lesson is about the various departments of Soul Masters and the emerging profession in the past few thousand years, Soul Mentors. Dai-yun's already knew this, so he did not listen to Wang Yan attentively. Of course, he still had to pretend to be listening carefully, but in fact he was talking to Tang Liu in his mind. "Tisk, tisk, tisk, that Dai Huolbin really wants to fight with you, and then defeat you to prove himself. If it weren't for his unqualified character, He would be a very suitable candidate for competitiveness, Dai-yun's first said. If we meet during the freshman assessment, I will definitely do my best to let him see it. But what do you mean by competitiveness? Tang Liu smiled and still kept it a secret. It means literally, Dai-yun's, Wang Yan didn't teach them for a long time. In his words, it was the first time for everyone to attend classes at Shrek Academy, and there might be many things that they were not used to, and the efficiency of listening to the class was probably not high, so he let everyone go early. Because he was afraid that Dai Huolbin would come up and cause trouble, Dai-yun's immediately left the classroom. Seeing this, Tang Qing followed him. After all, it was basically the first time for everyone to meet, and the only one he was familiar with was his roommate Dai-yun's. After leaving the teaching building, Shrek Square could be seen at a glance. Naturally, Dai-yun's and Tang Qing saw the first-year students in white uniforms running around Shrek Square. With a powerful vision provided by his spiritual eyes, Dai-yun's immediately noticed a figure running at the end of the first-year students in Shrek Square. After noticing that Dai-yun's beside him had slowed down his pace and found that he was looking at the students running in the square, Tang Qing also cast his eyes over, and then a flash of understanding flashed across his face, and he said, "It seems that these are all students of that perverted old Aunt Yi. I heard from the seniors in our college that only she would treat students like this." Dai-yun's glanced at him, and then said, "I heard about it too. It seems that she was originally teaching the 4th grade, but because she was too cruel, she was transferred to the 1st grade to teach." Tang Qing's face was full of sighs and relief. "It seems that she teaches class 1? Fortunately, I signed up late, otherwise I might have been in class 1. Dai-yun smiled and said, "Don't be too happy too soon. You know, after the freshman assessment, we will be redivided into classes. By then, maybe we will all go to class 1. Tang Qing's expression changed. "It won't be that miserable." Dai-yun shrugged, his eyes still looking at the figure running at the end of the square with sweat on his face, and said, "Who knows?" Seeing the figure approaching them, Dai-yun quickened his pace and left here with Tang Qing. Then, when he turned his back to Shrek Square, the figure just passed by him, but he just couldn't see his face clearly. After hearing the heavy footsteps going away from him, Dai-yun couldn't help but look back. Because he turned around with a large amplitude, Tang Qing naturally noticed it and looked back. Naturally, he also saw the boy who was running very hard, and then said with some sympathy, "Hey, it's too miserable to be assigned to class 1. That classmate obviously can't hold on." Dai-yun didn't say anything, just watched quietly. Then, they saw an old woman with an old face walked out of the teaching building, stood at the edge of Shrek Square, and after watching silently for a while, she shouted loudly, "Now, sprint with my position as the end point." As soon as the old woman finished speaking, most of the running figures on the playground began to sprint. The first to bear the brunt was a boy with short blue hair and an unusually handsome appearance. The boy was very fast. Almost 5 seconds after the old woman finished speaking, he rushed past the old woman, then began to slow down slowly, walked around the playground again, and stopped behind the old woman. Not long after that, other colleges rushed past the old woman. Only the figure who ran extremely hard was still struggling in the distance of the playground, moving forward at a speed not much faster than walking. Tang Qing and Dai-yun witnessed all this together. He was first surprised why the boy with short blue hair had such a handsome appearance, and then he saw the figure in the distance of the playground, and turned to look at the old woman standing there with an expressionless face, and said intuitively, "That classmate must be in trouble." Dai-yun did not respond. His eyes fell on the figure in the distance for a while, and then on the boy with short blue hair next to the old woman, and clenched his fists tightly. Just when he had begun to circulate his soul power, a pair of dazzling and extremely beautiful wings suddenly appeared in the square. The next moment, the owner of the wings rushed towards the figure in the distance. If Dai-yun took action, would Zhou Yi fire Hou Yuhao? Then would Wang Dong still like Xiao Yuhao? Would Xiao Yuhao like Dai-yun because of this? Covering his mouth and smiling with squinting eyes, "Hou Yuhao? How could such a good thing happen?" Dai-yun, Wang Dong, Tang Liu, rubbing Wang Dong's head, "Don't be sad, niece, your uncle will find you a better one. See you tomorrow." Chapter 414 Dai-yun's talisman? "Bring it to me." Dai-yun's clenched fist finally loosened, revealing a hint of a smile, and said to Tang Qing beside him, "Let's go, there's nothing to see." Tang Qing was still shocked by the gorgeous wings, and only came back to his senses after hearing Dai-yun's voice. He tilted his head to look at Dai-yun, his face still showing an extremely surprised expression. Did you see it? Dai said with a smile. What did you see? The most beautiful butterfly martial spirit in the entire continent, the goddess of light butterfly. Tang was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said, it's not that. Well, there is also a part of the reason. But what I actually want to say is, didn't you see his spirit ring? One yellow and one purple. The second spirit ring is 1,000-year level. Dai looked at him in surprise. This is not impossible, right? As long as you have consumed enough natural treasures that can improve your physical fitness since childhood, it is not difficult to absorb spirit rings across the years. Tang opened his mouth and wanted to say something several times, but he held it back again. He finally said helplessly, that classmate's family must be very rich. Dai nodded in disapproval, but did not speak. That's right, he is the second generation of gods, how could he not have money? At this time, Dai heard Tang Liu's teasing voice in his mind. He is the second generation of gods, and there is a Haoshan sect behind him to support him. What about you? What's wrong with you? Dai replied helplessly, aren't you asking even though you already know the answer? In short, after seeing Wang Dong choose to help Hou Yuhao according to the plot of the original book, Dai felt relieved and prepared to leave. If he stayed here any longer, he was afraid that it would attract Yuhao's attention, which would give him a headache. Tang Liu reminded him, don't you still have to give those things to Hou Yuhao? Wang Dong is there, go find her. Or do you want to find Tang Yu and Bebe? This afternoon, after school, Hou Yuhao will go to buy grilled fish for the first time, and Tang Yu and Bebe will gather there. Tang Liu's words gave Dai a headache, and he perfunctorily said, let's talk about it later. Tang Liu didn't care, so he didn't say anything else. Dai sighed silently and asked Tang beside him, where are we going now? Or should we go back to the dormitory to practice? Tang nodded and agreed, okay, it's still a while before dinner. Dai turned to the direction of the dormitory, then let's go. The class teacher Wang Yan still taught them the afternoon class, but this time Wang Yan didn't let them leave early, but actually taught for 2 hours, which made Dai numb. He was a little skeptical and thought, is there no such thing as a break in Shrek? Anyway, there really is no such thing. There are only 2 bells in Shrek Academy, one for classes and one for dismissal. When the second bell rings, it means that it is time to go home. Fortunately, Wang Yan is quite authentic. He does not lecture all the time during the 2 hours. Instead, he occasionally tells some interesting stories from the world of soul masters, which can barely be considered a break. Even if Tang Liu temporarily stays in Dai spiritual sea, he still feels a little overwhelmed and incredible. He used to have breaks when he was in Shrek. He just slept a little longer. Why did Shrek Academy become like this? It seems to be even more terrifying than the master's teaching. Who instructed this? It is outrageous to have a 4-hour class in a row. The students will have hemorrhoids in a few days, right? Tang Liu looked at Dai who was lying on the desk with a look of despair on his face, and then thought with a face full of complaints that maybe he should ask Moon to change it. After all, Shrek's current teaching method must not have appeared all of a sudden, and it must have become like this after countless internal conflicts. But it is too wrong to be like this. Do students have no human rights? And it will be very painful if they really get hemorrhoids. However, if the students really get hemorrhoids collectively, Tang Liu felt that he would die of laughter on the spot. Then Shrek Academy should not be called Shrek Academy at all, but directly changed its name to Shrek Hemorrhoid Hospital. Well, if this happens, Flanders will be angry to death. After Dai slumped on the desk for a while, he still got up and left. He and Tang had agreed long ago to go shopping outside the school gate after school, because the seniors said that it was a gathering place for vendors and they could find many delicious snacks there. Of course, although he said so, Dai actually just wanted to see Yuhao selling grilled fish. Maybe he could take the opportunity to give Yuhao some more money. Dai had already thought of a reason, just say that it was with Yuhao, and he would not have to pay for grilled fish next time he came to eat it. However, if he really wanted to buy Yuhao's grilled fish, he had to cover his face. Although his appearance has changed a lot compared to the past 5 years, he can still see some of his past. But his hair color has changed from pure black to the current dark gold because of his martial soul and the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger, so as long as he covers his face and closes his pupils, the possibility of being recognized is not great. Dai thought about it and took out a mask from his rosary bracelet. Tang Liu spoke at this time, and his voice sounded speechless. He has spiritual detection. Are you sure the mask can cover it? Dai-Yun's was stunned, and then said, I am also a spiritual system, I can interfere with his detection. Tang Liu shook his head. After all, his soul skills are provided by the million-year soul ring. Do you really think that your spiritual power can definitely beat him? Not to mention that the Xianmeng Ice Silkworm in his spiritual sea may provide support at any time. Dai-Yun's put the mask back. What should I do? Tang Liu sighed. I'll give you something that will make Hou Yuhao think that your appearance is that of another person. Dai-Yun's tentatively opened his claws. Tang Liu, why does he always feel that this guy seems to have said give it to you? Although he felt this way, Tang Liu still put the thing into Dai-Yun's school uniform pocket without making things difficult for him. Dai-Yun's only felt the corner of his clothes sink, and then put his hand in his pocket and took out a piece of bamboo that looked very fresh, with a very mysterious rune engraved on it. He blinked in confusion, feeling as if he had a very strong sense of déjà vu. Tang Liu spoke again, just carry it with you. As long as you don't leave it, you will be a different person in Hou Yuhao's eyes, and he won't suspect you at all. Dai-Yun's asked, will it not affect other people? Tang Liu, who had just secretly taken a drop of Hou Yuhao's blood not long ago, no, it will only work on Hou Yuhao. Dai-Yun's, okay. Thank you, what's going on? The sense of déjà vu is getting stronger and stronger. Tang Liu smiled, just complete your task well. Chapter 415 Jiangnanan. Dai-Yun seemed to suddenly remember something and asked, by the way, the task you gave me was to let me study at Shrek Academy, but you also said that I need to pass the freshman assessment before I can officially become a member of Shrek. So, do I have to compete for the championship of the freshman assessment? Tang Liu knew that he would have such a question, but he didn't intend to answer it, because then his identity would be exposed in advance, so he just said, won't you know when the rules of the freshman assessment are released? Otherwise, think back to your memories. Dai-Yun's immediately looked dead. Riddler, get out of here, brother. Shrek. Tang Liu resisted the urge to respond and chose to remain silent. However, if Dai-Yun's knew Tang Liu's identity, he would probably be scared out of his wits and get out of Shrek first. Seeing that Tang Liu had no reaction, Dai-Yun's no longer focused his mind on the sea of mind. He put the bamboo back into his pocket, then looked at the school gate that was getting closer and closer, and said to Tang Qing beside him, hey, have you been to Shrek City? Tang Qing shook his head, no. When I came here, I was busy registering, so I didn't have time to go around the city. Dai-Yun's nodded gently, let's hurry up and have dinner outside. I don't know if what those seniors said is true, Tang Qing, so many people are walking out, it should be true. Just as the two were walking and chatting, Tang Yu also happened to bring Hou Yuhao to the east gate of Shrek Academy, and then put out the grill and other things. Tang Yu said to Hou Yuhao, Zio Yuhao, I have prepared the seasoning and fish for you. You buy 5 copper soul coins for 1 fish. If the raw materials are gone, go to find Antlin in your cafeteria. I'll go buy something else to eat first, but don't forget, 2 of these 20 fish are mine. After saying that, without waiting for Hou Yuhao to answer, she ran away. Hou Yuhao secretly found it funny, but he immediately started grilling the fish. He had already mastered the skill of grilling fish. He applied the seasoning, stuffed the fish with basil, and used spiritual detection to control the heat. Soon, the aroma of the grilled fish emanated, and immediately attracted many Shrek students around. Most of the people who stayed here were seniors in the 2nd year or above. Hou Yuhao was the only one wearing a white school uniform. Soon, a senior in a yellow school uniform came over and asked, little brother, how much do you sell this grilled fish for? Hou Yuhao was very polite, senior, grilled fish is 5 copper soul coins. 5 copper soul coins were just a small amount for these Shrek students, as long as they were not particularly financially constrained. Therefore, the senior paid the bill very quickly. It smells good, give me one to try. Hou Yuhao was also a little excited about the success of the first transaction. After taking the copper soul coins handed over by the senior, he grilled the fish more seriously. Soon, a fish was grilled, and Hou Yuhao handed the grilled fish to the senior in yellow. The senior in yellow took it impatiently, took a big bite, and then his eyes lit up, eating faster, and did not forget to give Hou Yuhao a few thumbs up. Seeing this, the people who were still waiting around immediately gathered around and lined up in front of Hou Yuhao's stall, looking like they all wanted to try it. However, he only had 20 black fish, 2 of which were reserved for Tang Yu, which meant that he could only sell 18, but there were obviously more than 18 people in line. so Hou Yuhao could only apologize to those seniors who couldn't buy see you tomorrow. Dai Yuns and Tang Qing were also in the line. Perhaps because they came earlier, they just got the last 2 fish. Tang Qing was curious to see so many people waiting in line to eat, and wanted to try it himself. Dai Yuns looked at Hou Yuhao, who was surrounded by a bunch of people asking him when will the stall be open tomorrow, and do you accept reservations. He felt an inexplicable sense of pride. Of course, he was also looking forward to eating Hou Yuhao's grilled fish. After all, he hadn't tasted it for 5 years. Although he could grill it himself, after all, their grilling skills were taught by Hou Yuner. But Dai Yuns was lazy about cooking, so Yuhao had always been grilling fish. And Yuhao's grilled fish was really delicious. Finally, it was Dai Yuns and Tang Qing's turn in the line. The two stood in front of the oven and paid. Tang Qing looked at the 2 grilled fish on the oven curiously, and swallowed his saliva. Dai Yuns secretly looked at Hou Yuhao, who was concentrating on grilling fish in front of him. Oh, how come his brother has become so thin again? His face is unhealthy and pale. He must not have eaten well. No, he must find an opportunity to stuff money into Yuhao's pocket like crazy. While Dai Yuns was thinking about how to give money to Hou Yuhao, several young and beautiful girls slowly walked out of the gate of Shrek Academy. Especially the girl walking in the front, even though she was only 14 or 15 years old and had not fully grown up, she already had a stunning face. When she and the girls beside her appeared, the originally lively outside the gate suddenly became much quieter. Then, the girls noticed a group of people gathered beside the gate, and bursts of fragrant smells coming from there. One of the girls said, "Sister Nan, do you smell it? What smells so good? Is it the grilled fish sold by that junior? Should we go over and take a look?" The stunning girl, Jiang Nanan, nodded gently and led the girls around her to walk towards Hou Yuhao's stall. The people who were originally gathered in front of Hou Yuhao's stall made way for them. Jiang Nanan also smiled and nodded to the students who made way to express her gratitude. This movement naturally attracted Dai Yuns and Tang Qing who were in front of the oven. Dai Yuns and Tang Qing were both stunned when they saw Jiang Nanan, such a beautiful girl. Tang Qing also immediately moved aside like the other seniors, and blushed a little when he saw Jiang Nanan's smiling face. Dai Yuns did not move aside. After all, there was already a place next to him that Dai Yuns had made way for, enough for Jiang Nanan to come forward and see, and Jiang Nanan did walk to his side. Of course, in order to avoid suspicion, he still moved a little distance to the side. But he did not blush like Tang Qing. After all, he already knew that the beautiful girl had been taken. But when Jiang Nanan looked at him with a smile, Dai Yuns was still slightly stunned, and then thought to himself, this girl is really pretty. He was just purely appreciating her, and had no other intentions. Chapter 416 Su Sanchi. After Jiang Nanan came forward, she asked Hou Yuhao, Junior, how much do you sell this grilled fish for? Hou Yuhao replied, Senior, 5 copper soul coins per piece. Jiang Nanan frowned slightly and said, it's a bit expensive. Considering the cost and your processing, 3 copper soul coins should be the maximum, right? You can still make some money. Hearing this, looking at Hou Yuhao who was stunned by Jiang Nanan's words, Dai Yuns thought to himself that it should be about the same, and then he said with a smile, Senior, although your calculation is correct, you also have to consider that the value of food itself is sometimes not entirely determined by its raw materials and the chef's processing, but also by its own taste. Senior, you have to believe me, such a delicious grilled fish is definitely worth 5 copper soul coins. Moreover, I even think that 5 copper soul coins are a bit cheap. If it were in those big restaurants, their prices would definitely be several times more expensive than this classmate's price. Hou Yuhao looked at Jiang Nanan with an apologetic look on his face and said, Sorry, Senior, my grilled fish only sells for this much? And these 2 are ordered by these 2 students. After selling these 2, my stock of grilled fish for today will be sold out. Jiang Nanan first glanced at Dai Yuns who was talking beside her, then looked at Hou Yuhao and said apologetically, Sorry, I just calculated it casually. If I have a chance in the future, I will try it again. After that, she turned and left. Tang Qing also walked to Dai Yuns again at this time, took the grilled fish that Hou Yuhao handed over, and then said to Dai Yuns, the senior sister just now is so beautiful. Do you know who she is? Dai Yuns also took his grilled fish and said to Tang Qing, It seems to be the most beautiful girl in the outer courtyard, Jiang Nanan from the 4th grade. At the same time, he was thinking in his heart that Su Sanchi should not come to cause trouble this time. But then he was stunned. That's not right. If Su Sanchi doesn't come to cause trouble, what about Yu Hao's Zuanshu pill? Dai Yun's was a little annoyed. Was he going to challenge Su Sanchi? Tang Liu, who was silently observing everything, smiled secretly and said in a voice that only he could hear, "You still underestimate the self-correction ability of the world line." As soon as he finished speaking, Dai Yun's eyes vaguely caught a flash of gold passing by him, and then sank into the oven in front of him with red-hot charcoal. Then, a figure in a black skull uniform quickly passed him and reached out to grab the 2 grilled fish that Yu Hao had just grilled on the oven, and said at the same time, "Boy, dare you not sell it?" The moment the hand stretched out, Yu Hao behind the oven quickly picked up the 2 grilled fish on the oven, and then stepped back. Although the hand was fast, it still failed to snatch the grilled fish before Yu Hao, and it seemed that it could not stop the trend of the palm extending forward, so the hand reached into the oven and grabbed a handful of red-hot charcoal. But the man seemed to be calm, crushed the charcoal in his hand, and was about to grab Yu Hao, who was dodging. Moreover, he seemed to think that Tang Qing beside him was a bit of a hindrance, so he casually waved his hand and pushed Tang Qing aside. At the same time, he stepped back and kicked Yu Hao's grill aside. He took a step forward and came in front of Yu Hao, stretched out his hand to grab Yu Hao's collar. "Boy, are you looking for death?" Yu Hao couldn't dodge at all, and could only watch this man pick him up and snatch the grilled fish in his hand. Because he supported Tang Qing, who was pushed away by that person, Su Sanchi, Dai Yun's was one step too late even if he wanted to stop him. However, when he saw Su Sanchi lifting Yu Hao in the air, he still fixed his eyes, let Tang Qing stand firmly, and then a flash of light flashed in his right hand. "What are you doing? Stop!" The first person who said these 2 sentences was Jiang Nanan, and the second one was a handsome and elegant young man who rushed over quickly, that is, Bibi. However, there was someone faster than Bibi. "Let him go." Dai Yun stood in front of Su Sanchi and said calmly, "Otherwise, you will forget your eyes." In his raised right hand, there was a solid, sword-like lightning. The tip of this lightning pointed directly at Su Sanchi's left eye. Su Sanchi looked at the lightning that was almost at his pupil, and he was a little afraid to move. Even though he was known as the strongest defense of the outer courtyard of Shrek Academy, the eyes were extremely fragile and directly connected to the brain. How could he withstand a lightning? Hide? Su Sanchi didn't think he could be faster than light. So he could only choose to let go of Yu Hao. But he didn't put Yu Hao down steadily, but threw Yu Hao out. Seeing this, Dai Yun's immediately melted the lightning in his hand and was about to catch Yu Hao. But just when he was about to leave, he heard Tang Liu's voice in his mind. "Okay, let's go." Dai Yun's paused, but chose to obey. He looked at Yu Hao, who was caught by Tangya, took a step, walked around Su Sanchi in front of him, walked to Tang Qing, and then left with him. After that, Tangya gave Su Sanchi a dragon beard needle without hesitation, so all the eyes that were originally on Dai Yun's moved away again. The plot continued as normal. In order to resist the dragon beard needle, Su Sanchi had to release his martial spirit, and then his eyes moved from Dai Yun's back to Tangya. "Tangya, don't think that I can't do anything to you just because Bebe is protecting you," Tangya sneered. "Come on. Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Bebe also said lightly at this time. "Su Sanchi, you bullied my junior brother. You must give me an explanation for what happened today, otherwise we will go to the fighting spirit area to fight." Then Su Sanchi hid a wall with Jiang Nanan, and Tangya took back the 2 grilled fish that Yu Hao left for her. Bebe and Su Sanchi went to the fighting spirit area in Shrek Academy together, and Tangya took Yu Hao to watch the fun. Dai Yun's and Tang Qing returned to the cafeteria in the academy. After all, they only ate 1 grilled fish and their stomachs were not full. Dai Yun's ate while talking to Tang Liu in his mind, with a hint of questioning in his tone. "Why didn't you let me catch Yu Hao?" Tang Liu answered him bluntly, "If you make another move, it will be you and Su Sanchi going to the soul fighting zone. Do you dare to guarantee that you can get the Zuanshu pill from him? Without the Zuanshu pill, do you think Yu Hao can still reach level 17 before the freshman assessment?" Chapter 417 Who? Tang Liu continued, "If Yu Hao fails the freshman assessment and is expelled from Shrek Academy, that would be a big mess. As you know, Yu Hao has always been under Tang San's attention. If Tang San sets his sights on you because of this, you'd be finished." Dai Yun's was stunned for a moment and realized the seriousness of the matter. "Tang Liu, what did I tell you? To this world, you are variable, an outsider. and gods like Tang San are responsible for maintaining the stability of the worlds they govern. If they knew you existed, they would definitely take action to get rid of you. Dai Yuns chose to apologize. I'm sorry. But why did you choose to help me? And who are you? You can see my memories, so you must know that you don't exist in the original. Who are you, Tang Liu? Don't you already have a guess? Dai Yun said in a heavy tone. Yes, after all, your last name is Tang. But I still want to hear you tell me who you are. Tang Liu smiled. You will know, but it will have to be after the All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul Competition. Dai Yun's tone did not have the meaning of complaining this time, but there was a kind of sigh and unwillingness in it. I hate you riddlers the most, perhaps to vent the unwillingness in his heart. Dai Yun fiercely ate a few mouthfuls of the rice in the bowl. Then he heard Tang Qing's voice across from him. By the way, Dai Yun, you just suddenly disappeared from my side, and then appeared in front of that 6th grade senior. What's going on? Dai Yun looked at Tang Qing's curious face, chewing his rice, and said vaguely, that's a secret. After that, he showed Tang Qing a mysterious smile. Tang Qing said huh? But just shrugged and didn't ask any more questions. Okay, secrets are secrets. Fighting Spirit Area. In the lounge where the academy prepares for the Fighting Spirit competition, Su Sanchi no longer had the angry and arrogant look he had outside the school gate. He lifted his shirt with some pain to show Bibai in front of him the big bulge on his waist, and said dissatisfiedly, Bibai, your Xiao is too cruel. Look, after trading a Zuanshu pill, Bibai agreed to help Su Sanchi untie the dragon beard needle. After taking back the dragon beard needle, Bibai asked Su Sanchi again, by the way, that first-year junior just now, the one who threatened you with lightning, do you know him? Su Sanchi looked painful. I was just about to ask you. The lightning released by that little guy was almost touching my eyes. I didn't dare to move at all. However, his ability to control lightning seems to be very strong. Although my eyes were pointed at, the lightning in his hand did not fluctuate at all, and it did not have the violent look that a lightning element should have. Hey, tell me, can you do it like him? At the end, Su Sanchi looked at Bibai curiously. Bibai shook his head. It's very difficult. I also saw that the lightning in the hands of that junior was just like a still sword. Anyway, I definitely can't do that now. Su Sanchi was a little puzzled. Is his martial soul the element of lightning? Maybe the lightning pointing at me is one of his soul skills. Bibai laughed at him unceremoniously. Did you see him release his soul ring? So that can't be a soul skill at all. It can only be because of his strong control. Su Sanchi felt extremely depressed. It's so embarrassing. I actually lost to a freshman. And in front of my beloved Nanan, although he didn't really fight with Dai Yuns, if Dai Yuns didn't hold back just now, he would have died. So in his opinion, he did lose to Dai Yuns. Bibai smiled. I really don't know what happened between you and Jiang Nanan that made you willing to love a flower. Okay, I'm going out first. If you lose later, don't forget to give me another Zuanshu pill, in the dormitory. After dinner, Dai Yuns returned to the dormitory and began to practice. Tang Qing followed a broadcast to the Fighting Spirit Area to watch the battle between Bibai and Su Sanchi. Dai Yuns now has a total of 2 meditation techniques. The first one is the one that has been passed down from generation to generation by the Duke of White Tiger. After awakening his martial soul, until he met Long Xiaoyao, he practiced this every day. The second one was taught by Long Xiaoyao. Since then, he has used the meditation technique taught by Long Xiaoyao every time he practices. Perhaps because they both have dark attributes, the meditation technique that Long Xiaoyao taught him is much more compatible with the one that has been passed down from generation to generation by the Duke of White Tiger, and it also allows him to circulate his soul power faster when practicing than when using the Duke's set. Dai Yuns has 2 martial souls. One is his main martial soul, the Spirit Eye. The other is the God-devouring Evil Eye White Demon Tiger, which is a mutation of the Evil Eye White Tiger. At first, when his martial soul awakened, he had no feeling about his spiritual eyes. He also thought that he only had one martial soul, the God-devouring Evil Eye White Demon Tiger. Even Tang Liu did not remind him. It was only when Long Xiaoyao asked him which martial soul he wanted to focus on that he realized that he actually had twin martial souls. And not surprisingly, Dai Yuns chose to focus on his spiritual eyes. After all, the God-devouring Evil Eye White Demon Tiger is an evil martial soul. Even if he can cover up the evil spirit of the martial soul, it is still possible for others to see it. What's more, he has to move around in Douluo continent. If he chooses to focus on the god-devouring evil white demon tiger, wouldn't it be a blatant way to tell others that he is an evil soul master? Then will he still want to live? Other soul masters don't care whether you can keep your original heart. As long as you are an evil soul master, you have to kill to eliminate future troubles. Dai Yan's choice to focus on his spiritual eyes was also within Long Xiao's expectations. After confirming it, he took Dai Yan's to obtain the first soul ring. Although powerful spiritual attribute soul beasts are rare, Dai Yan's only needs the first soul ring, and there are many soul beasts to choose from. But before finding a soul beast for Dai Yan's, Long Xiao did not forget to ask him what kind of soul master he wanted to be. What puzzled Dai Yan's was that although he told him about his future development direction, Long Xiao still brought him to a soul beast that he found a little unexpected. That soul beast was in the extreme north. It was an ice silkworm about 600 years old. Although he couldn't figure it out, Dai Yan's could only choose to absorb the soul ring of the ice silkworm after its death, and then after using the soul skill he got, he said, "It smells good." As for the age of the ice silkworm, the reason lies in the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger that he fused. Chapter 418 Color. After merging with the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger, Dai Yan's not only immediately gained some of the dark demon evil god tiger's abilities, but his physique was also strengthened a lot. Moreover, the energy core has not been completely absorbed by him until now. Every time he practices, he can feel the power from the energy core being gradually absorbed and assimilated by himself. Not only has it been strengthening his physique, but it has also prevented his practice speed from slowing down due to the extreme martial spirit. Dai Yan's soul power broke through level 30 even earlier than Dai Huolbin. After all, the practice speed of the extreme martial spirit before level 30 is dominant, and it will only slow down after level 30. Now, Dai Yan's soul power is level 34, close to level 35, which should be considered the highest soul power among the current freshmen, followed by Dai Huolbin's level 33. After breaking through level 30, Dai Yan's practice speed is indeed a bit slower, but under the effect of the dark demon evil god tiger's energy core, his practice speed is still higher than the average level of most soul masters. If Hou Yuhao's cheat is the Xianmeng ice silkworm and the souls that came later, then Dai Huobin's cheat is the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger. Dai Yan's felt that the energy core was extremely powerful. According to his estimation, he could only completely absorb it after he reached the 7th ring. And now, he has not completely absorbed it yet, but he has already gained a lot of benefits from it. Like today, he was able to suddenly appear in front of Su Sanchi, and the lightning that threatened Su Sanchi, all came from the ability of the dark demon evil god tiger. Those who have seen the transformation of the sky beads know that Zhou Weiqing, who merged with the residual energy of the dark demon evil god tiger, gained a total of 6 attributes after awakening the sky beads: evil, darkness, time, space, lightning, and wind. Except for the wind attribute, which came from Shangwen Binger, the sacrifice at the time of awakening, the other 5 all came from the dark demon evil god tiger. And those 5 attributes are all powerful. Since Dai Yan's god-devouring evil white demon tiger itself also has the attributes of evil and darkness, these 2 abilities have only been strengthened. Due to the limitations of his realm, his use of them is not very strong. Under Long Xiao's instruction, his control over darkness is stronger than that over evil. Apart from these 2, he can now use space and lightning. His use of lightning is currently the strongest, because it was Tang Liu who taught him how to use it. In fact, it can't be considered teaching. After all, Tang Liu only mentioned it to him briefly. But it was those few words that made the lightning attribute Dai Yan's most powerful attack method at present. As for the last time attribute, Dai Yan's couldn't use it at all, but Dai Yan's could clearly feel that power in his body. After Dai Yan's practiced for half an hour, Tang Qing came back from outside. Seeing Dai Yan's meditating, he didn't disturb him. He carefully took the toothbrush to avoid making too much noise, and after washing up, he also started practicing. Compared with Dai Yan's practice, there was basically no fluctuation in soul power, while Tang Qing's soul power leaked out during practice. Of course, this is not because his control is not strong, but because his martial soul and soul power attributes are too overbearing. The trace of soul power that occasionally leaked out during his training was heavy and extremely condensed, which made people feel palpitating. The whole night was spent in training. Dai Yan's second day of study at Shrek Academy began after breakfast. Today's class was no longer taught by Wen Yan. In the morning, it was a course on martial soul classification, and in the afternoon, it was a course on soul-beast age identification. Similarly, the teachers did not go very deep in the first class. They were all some very common knowledge. Dai-Yun's had learned these from Long Xiaoyao a long time ago, so he was still slacking off all day. The seat he chose was also the last row, so he was not afraid that the teacher would notice even if he was slacking off. In the afternoon, Dai-Yun's and Tang Qing came to the school gate again to eat grilled fish, and they were 2 rows behind Su Sanchi. After seeing Su Sanchi, Tang Qing was stunned for a moment, thinking that he was here to cause trouble again, but in the end, he just bought 2 grilled fish and left. Similarly, he also saw the boy with short blue hair standing next to Hu Hao, who was grilling fish, and then said to Dai-Yun's, "Look, isn't that the classmate we saw on the playground yesterday?" Dai-Yun's naturally noticed Wang Dong next to Hu Hao a long time ago, and said, "Yes. But didn't you notice? The one who grilled fish was also the one we saw on the playground yesterday." Tang Qing was stunned for a moment, and then he remembered, "Is it the classmate who ran at the back?" Dai-Yun's nodded, "It's him." After that, the line came to them, and Dai-Yun's finally found a chance to give Hu Hao money. He said that he had no change, and when he paid, he stuffed a gold soul coin into Hu Hao's pocket, and then said that he would just keep it with him, and he didn't need to charge him when he came to eat grilled fish in the future, and at the same time stop Tang Qing who wanted to pay for him. Then, for the next 3 months, Dai-Yun's never went to eat Hu Hao's grilled fish again. Tang Qing, for 3 months, their daily study life was similar to the previous 2 days, class and practice, just these 2 things repeated over and over again. Of course, Tang Qing would still go to eat grilled fish after school in the afternoon. After all, no one could easily give up delicious food. And Dai-Yun's would go back to the dormitory to practice non-stop after lunch every day, and at the same time worry about how to give Hu Hao more money. The bedding quilt in his rosary bracelet has not been given out yet. But in the past 3 months, Dai-Yun's couldn't think of any other way to give Hu Hao money, so he began to think about whether to change his face and go to eat grilled fish again, and then take the opportunity to give Hu Hao some more gold soul coins. But he obviously didn't have the ability to change his face, and Tang Liu seemed to have disappeared in the past 3 months. Unless he took the initiative to talk to Dai-Yun's, no matter how Dai-Yun's called, he would not get a response. As soon as the class started this morning, Wang Yan appeared in the class, and then began to tell the students of Class 5 about the matters related to the freshman assessment. Dai-Yun's, who had been planning to continue paddling for the rest of the day, suddenly became alert and immediately sat down to listen to Wang Yan's talk attentively. If Wang Yan hadn't mentioned it today, he would have almost forgotten that he had been in Shrek Academy for 3 months. On the podium, Wang Yan first wrote the words freshman assessment on the blackboard, then turned around, looked at the students below with a smile, and said, "Dear students, 3 months have passed since the start of school, and the annual freshman assessment will officially begin tomorrow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 419 Team Building. Our Shrek Academy's assessment has always been direct, that is, actual combat. After all, only actual combat is the truth that tests everything. This year's freshman assessment will be conducted in the form of a 3-person team battle. Each team can only have 1 strong attack spirit master, and there are no qualitative requirements for the other 2. I will not interfere too much with your respective team combinations. Everything depends on your own decision, unless there are students who fail to complete the combination in the end. The freshman assessment is conducted uniformly for the whole grade, which means that you may encounter teams from any class. This time there will be nearly 300 groups of students participating in the competition, and only the top 150 groups will be able to stay, which is also considered to be officially becoming the first-year students of our Shrek Academy. As long as there are no special circumstances, they can stay in the academy to study. Before the assessment begins, your competition area and opponents will be determined by drawing lots. Each team must fight 10 battles and win more than 6 games to pass the freshman assessment. After 10 games, the top 64 teams will participate in the elimination match, and the top 4 academies in the elimination match will have different rewards. Although I will not have any requirements for your assessment pass rate, I still hope that everyone can pass this freshman assessment smoothly and stay in the academy to study. After the freshman assessment, you will be redivided into classes according to your training directions. Generally speaking, the control department and the strong attack department will be in one class, the agile attack department and the defense department will be in one class, and the auxiliary department and the food department will be in one class. That's all I have to say about the freshman assessment. Now I'll give you some time to form your own team members for the assessment. After that, you will write down the direction you want to train in the future on a piece of paper and hand it to me. When submitting, please submit it together with 3 students in the same group. After Wang Yan finished speaking, he walked down and handed each student a piece of white paper. After returning to the podium, he clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Okay, now let's start discussing on your own. Let's finish school early so that you can go back to rest and prepare for tomorrow's assessment." As soon as he finished this sentence, the originally quiet class suddenly became lively, and everyone quickly gathered together. Dai Yuns immediately looked at Tang Qing beside him, and said to him, "I haven't asked you what your martial soul is. Which department of Soul Master are you?" Tang Qing also came over and said, "I am a strong attack department." Dai Yuns frowned. "That's bad. I am also a strong attack department." Tang Qing was dumbfounded. Then we can't be in the same team. After all, Wang Yan clearly said that there can only be one strong attack department Soul Master in a team. Dai Yuns rolled his eyes, and then lowered his voice slightly and said to Tang Qing, "Don't worry, my martial soul is not very conspicuous, and my soul skills are also not conspicuous, so I can pretend that I am a control department Soul Master." Tang Qing was stunned. "Is this okay?" Dai Yuns nodded and said, "Don't worry. They will definitely not be able to see it." After that, he picked up a pen and wrote the 3 words control department on the paper. Seeing that he was confident, Tang Qing was no longer worried, and picked up a pen and wrote the 3 words strong attack department on his own paper. After both of them finished writing, they gathered together again. Tang Qing said, "Who should we find as the 3rd person in our team?" Dai Yuns, "Don't worry about it. There are 93 people in our class, which is exactly 31 groups, so there will definitely be one. But let me say first, I have no interest in the elimination round later, so I just need to pass the freshman assessment and not compete for the top 4 in the elimination round." After Wang Yan explained all the requirements of the freshman assessment, Dai Yuns finally figured out one thing. Tang Liu gave him the task of studying at Shrek Academy, and later told him that he would not be considered a real Shrek student if he did not pass the freshman assessment. He wondered whether he should compete for the first place in the freshman assessment. But now, he realized that he did not have to get the first place in the freshman assessment to pass the freshman assessment. Tang Qing understood what he meant. "You don't want to participate in the elimination round later?" Dai Yuns nodded. "That's right," Tang Qing said again, "but I heard that there will be a core disciple quota in the top 4 rewards in the freshman assessment. If you become a core disciple, you can get more resources from the academy. Don't you want it?" Dai Yuns shrugged. "I don't think it makes any difference to me. After all, he didn't come to Shrek Academy to study. And with Long Xiaoyao here, can't his cultivation resources be compared with the core disciples of Shrek Academy?" Now, he's watching Tang Qing's attitude. If Tang Qing wants to compete for the top 4 in the elimination round, then he can only find someone else who is willing to listen to his arrangements to form a team. But what was somewhat beyond Dai Yuns' expectations was that after hearing what he said, Tang Qing actually nodded in agreement, and then said, "I also think that there seems to be no difference. But in this case, when we look for a 3rd person, we have to find someone who is willing to not participate in the later elimination rounds with us." Dai Yuns was surprised. "Are you willing to give up participating in the elimination rounds with me?" Tang Qing smiled and said, "Of course. In fact, my family only arranged for me to come here for training, so it doesn't matter whether I become a core disciple or not. Besides, there will be many opportunities to become a core disciple in the future, so there is no need to rush now." Dai Yuns looked at him seriously, then smiled. "Thank you." Tang Qing waved his hand. "Don't bother with these nonsense. Think about who we should find to join us." Dai Yuns revealed a hint of helplessness in his expression, and said, "Actually, I haven't thought about it yet. Otherwise, let's see who is left at the end and let him join our team." Tang Qing thought about it and felt that this method was feasible. Okay, after all, the last one left will definitely not be wanted by any team. Even if he joins our team, he can listen to our arrangements. Dai Yuns thought about it for the last time and decided to make the decision. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, He heard a soft female voice behind him. "Excuse me, classmate Dayuns, have you decided who to team up with?" Dayuns immediately turned around and Tang Qing also looked up at the direction where the voice came from. The person who spoke was a female classmate with smooth black hair that reached her shoulders and a pair of black, bright big eyes that were slightly purple. Her eyebrows were gentle and slender willow-shaped eyebrows, and her appearance was beautiful. At first glance, she looked very literary and elegant. Dayuns was stunned for a moment, and then he found that he seemed to have some impression of the girl in front of him. He paused and said uncertainly, "You are classmate Murin Jin, right?" Chapter 420 Team Composition. The literary girl nodded slightly, biting her plump red lips, and looked at Dayuns with a hint of expectation and uneasiness in her eyes. Dayuns continued, "Do you want to team up with me?" The literary girl Murin Jin said softly, "If you already have a team, then forget it." Dayuns, I only have one teammate now, that's him, my roommate and deskmate, his name is Tang Qing. If you are willing, of course you can join us. But there is one thing I must tell you first." Murin Jin's face showed some doubts, and said, "Excuse me." Dayuns coughed lightly, and then said, "Tang Qing and I don't plan to participate in the later elimination rounds. As long as we can pass the freshman assessment, it will be fine. So we will probably only participate in the first 10 battles." Hearing this, Murin Jin breathed a sigh of relief, and then smiled slightly. "It doesn't matter, in fact, I just want to find someone to take me through the freshman assessment. To be honest, my soul power is actually only level 18, and I am an auxiliary soul master with no combat ability. I have asked many classmates just now, but they are all aiming for the elimination round ranking, so they are not very willing to take me. Therefore, as long as you are willing to take me through the freshman assessment ahead, I will be very grateful." When she said this, Murin Jin looked at Dayuns with a bit of apology. After all, Dayuns was not the first person she asked. Before that, she had also asked Dai Hulbin, but Dai Hulbin had already chosen Zulu and Kuieji in the class, and he really looked down on her martial spirit and cultivation. Before Dayuns could speak, Tang Qing spoke first. "That's fine, we are worried that we can't find someone to give up the elimination round with us." Dayuns also nodded, smiled at Murin Jin, and said, "In this case, you can join our team. We will also try our best to help you pass the freshman assessment." Murin Jin showed a relaxed smile, nodded, and his tone became a little lighter. "Thank you, I will also try my best not to hold you back." After that, Murin Jin quickly walked back to his seat, wrote the 3 words Assistance Department on the paper, and then returned to Dayuns and handed him the paper. Seeing this, Tang Qing also quickly handed his piece of paper to Dayuns. Dayuns glanced at Murin Jin and Tang Qing respectively, then smiled and said, "Is it decided?" Murin Jin smiled and nodded. Tang Qing patted Dayuns on the back and said, "Go and give it to Teacher Wang." Dayuns stood up, took the 3 neatly stacked papers and walked up to the podium, then handed them to Wang Yan. Wang Yan looked at Dayuns, smiled and nodded at him, then said to him, "Come on, Dayuns, I am most optimistic about you and Dai Hulbin in our class." After saying that, he took a look at the 3 pieces of paper handed in by Dayuns, frowned slightly, but finally said with a smile, "Go, the 3 of you in your group can leave school early. Have a good rest after you go back, and the assessment will officially begin tomorrow morning." Dayuns didn't say much, just looked at Wang Yan with a smile, then bowed slightly. "Thank you, Teacher Wang." After saying that, he turned around and walked back to his seat, and said to Tang Qing and Murin Jin, "Let's go, we can leave now." Murin Jin nodded, walked back to his seat first, and began to pack up. Dayuns and Murin Jin stood at the back door of the classroom waiting for her. And just a moment later, after Dayuns handed in the paper, several more people went up to hand in the papers. Dayuns was the first, and the second was Dai Hulbin. After handing in the papers, Dai Hulbin still gave Dayuns a provocative look. Dayuns looked away and continued to ignore him. He looked at Murin Jin who was jogging over and smiled. Then the 3 of them left the classroom of freshman class 5 together. When passing by the classroom of freshman class 1, Dayuns took a look and found that there was no one inside. It seemed that they had finished school earlier than the 3 of them. After leaving the teaching building, Dayuns and the others did not choose to return to the dormitory immediately, but walked towards the shore of Poseidon Lake. Because there were many wide lawns and open spaces there, they could have some running in before the assessment tomorrow. Of course, they said running in, but in fact they were not really going to fight or anything. The three of them just found a lawn with shade, and then sat there and told each other about their martial souls, soul powers, and soul skills in detail. Murin was the first to start. She knew that she was the weakest among the three, so she told Dai Yunzi and Tang Qing about her detailed abilities before Dai Yunzi and Tang Qing. Murin looked at Dai Yunzi and Tang Qing, who were looking at him seriously, but he didn't feel shy. He spoke calmly. My martial soul is called Shyanankan, a musical instrument martial soul. Musical instrument martial souls like mine can generally provide assistance and control, but the first soul ring I added is an auxiliary function. The soul skill is called the sound of excitement, which can probably bring you a 5% all-round improvement, Tang Qing said with a little surprise. A 5% increase in all attributes? Then your soul skill is very good. Murin smiled lightly, looked at him and said, my soul skill sounds really good, but my martial soul is a little special, which is different from other auxiliary soul masters. After other auxiliary soul masters use their soul skills, as long as they keep their soul power output, they can ensure that their soul skills are always effective. But I also need to play non-stop. In other words, I can only keep playing the song with Shyanankan to make my first soul skill, the sound of excitement, continue to take effect on you. Once the song is interrupted, the increase you receive will disappear immediately. Tang Qing felt a little confused. This doesn't sound like a big problem, Dai Yunzi said immediately. It seems that we have to assign one person to protect you during the assessment. But let me ask first, under what circumstances do you usually have to interrupt your playing? Murin said, I am very familiar with the songs I am going to play, so as long as I am not attacked, I usually won't stop. Dai Yunzi continued to ask, then can you keep playing while moving? Murin smiled, I have practiced specifically and can do this. Dai Yunzi nodded and said, then there is nothing else. Like Tang Qing said, this is not a big problem. If you use your soul skills at all, how long can you last? Murin, although my soul power is not much, if I keep providing you with amplification, I can last at least half an hour. Dai Yunzi smiled, enough. And you don't need to provide us with assistance all the time, just listen to my instructions and use the soul skills. Now use your first soul skill on us, and stop when I say stop. Chapter 421 Dai Yunzi's Soul Skills. Murin nodded, okay, then she released her martial spirit. She raised her hand, and a faint glow condensed, and finally formed a small and exquisite harp that she held in her left hand. At the same time, a circle of yellow soul rings appeared with her martial spirit, hovering around her body. Murin then plucked the strings with her right hand, and her fingers deftly hooked, picked, and plucked. The crisp sound of the harp gradually evolved into a melody of cheerful melody, and the yellow 100-year soul ring hovering around Murin also lit up at the moment the first note sounded. Similarly, at the moment they heard the sound of the harp, Dai Yunzi and Tang Qing also felt refreshed at the same time. Obviously, Murin soul skill took effect. About 3 seconds later, Dai Yunzi said stop, so Murin stopped playing, and the sound of the harp also stopped abruptly. Dai Yunzi and Tang Qing also felt that the amplification effect they received disappeared at the same time. Dai Yunzi showed a thoughtful look, and then said to Murin, try again, I will keep a distance from you first. When you see me stop, will you start to use soul skills on me, or will you stop when I say stop? Murin nodded and agreed. So Dai Yunzi immediately stood up, circulated his soul power, and tapped the ground with his toes. After dozens of rises and falls, he went to a position 400 meters away, and then stopped and turned to look at Tang Qing and Murin. Murin had been paying attention to Dai Yunzi. When he saw Dai Yunzi stop, he started playing again. Dai Yunzi, who was standing in the same place, also kept paying attention to Murin with his spiritual eyes. The moment he saw her fingers pluck the strings, he started counting in his mind. Sure enough, after about a second, he heard the sound of the piano becoming a little weaker, and at the same time, he also felt a familiar amplification in his body. He guessed correctly that in order to be amplified by Murin's soul skills, he must first hear her piano sound. The speed of sound in the air is about 340 meters per second, so if you are too far away from Murin, you may not be able to receive her assistance in time. No wonder she chose to rely on a team to pass the freshman assessment. Although her first soul skill has a good increase in all attributes, the special limitation of her martial soul is too big, and it is also very inconspicuous in Shrek Academy. If she casually forms a team to participate in the freshman assessment, it is definitely unlikely that she will continue to study in the academy. However, The venue for the freshman assessment will definitely not be too large, so this limitation of Murin-jin's martial soul is not a problem. Moreover, the amplification effect of her soul skill does not weaken with the increase in distance. At this time, Dai-Yun's thought of another point. If you can hear the sound of the piano, you will be amplified. Then, as long as the distance that the sound of the piano can be transmitted, you can enjoy the amplification of Murin-jin's soul skills. In that case, this characteristic of Murin-jin's martial soul is an advantage. After all, the soul skills of general auxiliary soul masters also have an effective range. But Dai-Yun's didn't think about it anymore. After all, he only needed to pass the freshman assessment. It was not him who should worry about Murin-jin's martial spirit characteristics, but the college's senior management. So Dai-Yun's put his hands to his mouth to make a trumpet shape, and then shouted loudly, "You can stop," in the side of the spirit eyes. After Murin-jin's fingers stopped plucking the strings, the sound of the piano continued to ring in Dai-Yun's ears for about a second before it stopped, and the amplification effect he received also stopped. Dai-Yun's ran back and sat down next to Tang Qing again, and then said to Murin-jin, "I have basically understood the characteristics of your soul skills. Again, there is no big problem, just listen to my instructions during the competition tomorrow." Hearing what he said, Murin-jin breathed a sigh of relief, and then smiled and said, "Okay, then." Dai-Yun spoke again, "Then let me talk about myself next." Tang Qing and Murin-jin immediately became much more serious. After all, they were both very curious about Dai-Yun's martial spirit and soul power level. Murin-jin was even more so. She knew that Dai-Yun should be very powerful. After all, he was praised by Wang Yan on the first day of school. And it was precisely because of this that Murin-jin immediately found Dai-Yun's after hitting a wall with Dai Hulbin. Otherwise, there would be so many people in the class who wanted to team up with Dai-Yun's. How could she get a chance to do so? After a pause, Dai-Yun said in a very normal tone, "My martial soul is my eyes. I call it spiritual eyes, which are spiritual attributes. My current cultivation level is 3 ranks, and I have a total of 3 soul skills." As soon as he said this, Tang Qing and Murin-jin opened their mouths in surprise. Tang Qing even interrupted Dai-Yun's directly, "Does that mean you have exceeded level 30? My god, everyone is around 11 years old. How did you manage to cultivate so fast?" Murin-jin was speechless now, and just nodded in agreement. Dai-Yun smiled and said, "It's not just me. In our class, at least 3 people have reached the soul master level. Of course, I may be the one with the highest soul power level now." He still had a childish mentality, so Dai-Yun's couldn't help but show off a little. Tang Qing and Murin-jin still stared at him with surprise, unable to speak for a long time. Seeing this, Dai-Yun shrugged and continued, "Then let me continue to talk about my soul skills. My first soul skill is called mental detection, which allows me to release my mental power and form a weak mental field with a diameter of about 60 meters with me as the center, and at the same time help me collect all the data within this range. The second soul skill is called mental blast, which needs to be used in conjunction with my first soul skill, mental detection. As long as they are within the range of my mental detection, I can use mental blast to detonate other people's mental power. The power of this soul skill is controlled by me subjectively. If it is mild, the person whose mental power is detonated will only feel a slight dizziness. If it is a little heavier, it can delay him for a few seconds, so this soul skill can be used for both attack and control. My third soul skill is called mental telekinesis, which also has a certain attack ability, but its power is not as strong as the second soul skill, but it is more widely used and can also be used as a control skill. After saying this, Dai-Yun's first glance at Tang Qing and Murin-jin respectively, observed their reactions, and then continued. "You have heard that 2 of my 3 soul skills are used for attack. Strictly speaking, I should be considered a strong attack soul master, and I plan to develop in this direction in the future. It was only in order to form a team with Tang Qing that I reported it as a control soul master. Murin, please don't report us." Chapter 422 Haoshan Tang Qing. It was obvious that Dai-Yun's last words were addressed to Murin-jin. He was smiling at Murin-jin and exuding a friendly mood, so that Murin-jin would not feel that he was threatening her. However, Murin-jin was also a very sensible girl. She knew very well that she had joined Dai-Yun's team in order to pass the assessment. For her own sake, she hoped that Dai-Yun's would be as powerful as possible. How could she report Dai-Yun's for this reason? She first looked at Tang Qing curiously and asked, "So, Tang Qing, You are also a strong attack department. After getting Tang Qing's affirmative answer, Jin smiled cunningly and said, the academy does not allow two strong attack departments to appear in a team, because when everyone's cultivation is still low and there are not many soul rings, the advantage of the strong attack department is originally higher than that of other departments. Now we have two strong attack departments in our team, and Daiyun's can be used as a control department, and he is also a soul master. From this point of view, it will be easy for our team to pass this freshman assessment. While saying this, Jin also sighed in her heart that she really hugged the thigh this time. Maybe she can even win without doing anything. Daiyun and Tang Qing also smiled when they heard her say this. Tang Qing even said, if we are not interested in the elimination rounds later, we will definitely compete for the championship of the freshman assessment. Jin shook her head, I just want to pass the assessment. I dare not force the elimination rounds later, and I am not very interested. She has always been a person who knows herself very well. Daiyun smiled and said, we have the same opinion. Tang Qing also laughed, then coughed lightly, attracting the attention of Daiyun and Jin to himself, and then said, now it's my turn. I am now at level 25. As for the martial spirit, I believe you should all be familiar with it. Daiyun and Jin asked curiously at the same time, what is it? Tang Qing coughed lightly again, and his expression could not help but reveal a little pride in boasting. My martial spirit is the Clear Sky Hammer. Jin immediately exclaimed, Clear Sky Hammer? Are you a disciple of the Clear Sky sect? Daiyun's face was also surprised. He did not expect that there would be another owner of the Clear Sky Hammer martial spirit in Shrek Academy. After all, it was not mentioned in the original book. Is this the so-called butterfly effect? Moreover, if Tang Qing is from the Clear Sky sect, does he also know Wang Dong? Hearing Jin's question, Tang Qing did not deny it. He nodded with a smile and said, yes, I am a disciple of the Haoshan sect. Then he looked at Daiyun with some depression and said, however, I thought I should be considered a talented student in the first year of Shrek Academy, but I didn't expect that you have already reached the Soul Master level. I, who came from the Haoshan sect, can't even practice faster than you. Daiyun laughed and didn't answer, just perfunctorily. Tang Qing just mentioned it casually without asking any more questions, and said, let me talk about my two soul skills. Both of them increase my own power. The first soul skill is to increase my strength alone, and the second soul skill is mainly to improve my own defense and resistance, but the strength and soul power will also be slightly increased. Therefore, I am better at close combat. Then, as if he suddenly remembered something, he hurriedly said, by the way, I also know the chaotic cloak hammer method, but I can only swing 14 hammers at most. But these 14 hammers are enough to deal with most opponents with the same cultivation as me. If I go all out, even the Soul Master may not be able to resist my attack power. After all, the famous chaotic cloak hammer method on the continent is powerful because of the superposition of hammers. The Clear Sky Hammer was once the continent's first attack weapon martial soul, and it is not a false reputation. In short, after the three of them introduced their own abilities, they left the Sea God Lake. When they saw that it was about time, they went to have lunch together, and then went back to the dormitory to rest and practice. After the afternoon, Tang Qing went to the school gate to line up for grilled fish. Daiyun hesitated for a long time and didn't follow him. Although in his impression, today should be the day when Yu Hao met Mazaya Ateo again, he also wanted to see this fire demon. It's not because of anything else, just because he wanted to help her. After all, Mazaya Ateo was also very good to Yu Hao in the original book, and later they became siblings. Mazaya Ateo's martial soul is the evil fire phoenix, which has evil spirits, causing the flames to be impure. Daiyun himself has the ultimate evil attribute. Maybe he can help Mazaya Ateo remove the evil spirits in her martial soul, so that she will no longer be disturbed by the evil fire. But in the end, Daiyun didn't go. After all, he couldn't just run to Mazaya Ateo and tell her that he could help her remove the evil fire, right? Considering the special nature of the evil fire phoenix, Daiyun felt that if he really said that, it would be a good result if he was not beaten to death by Mazaya Ateo. Therefore, Daiyun, who couldn't find a place to go, had to continue to practice in the dormitory. As usual, Tang Qing quietly came back after hanging out outside, quickly washed up without disturbing Daiyun's meditation, and then began to practice. There was no conversation all night. The next day, which was the day when the freshman assessment was about to officially begin, In the morning, each student came to their respective classes after a short break from the morning class, waiting for the teacher to lead them to draw lots. The freshman assessment will officially begin this afternoon. In the morning, each group will go to the division to draw lots and draw opponents. In the first 10 rounds of the assessment, that is, the freshman assessment, the college will avoid groups from the same class becoming opponents, which means that the opponents that Yuns and his friends will encounter in the freshman assessment will all be people from other classes. After knowing this, Yun still felt a little regretful, because that meant that he would not be able to meet Hulbin, and he would not be able to beat Hulbin. The freshman assessment will be conducted in the assessment area next to the fighting spirit area. There is a very large area there. This time it will be divided into 50 areas. Each area is a square with a side length of 20 meters. The 400 square meter venue is definitely enough for freshmen who are generally in the first and second rings. Yuns and his 3 companions were drawn to District 13. There were 5 other teams in the same district, which would be their opponents in the next few days. Each regional academy was equipped with a teacher, who is not only responsible for the registration of the teams in his own district, but also served as the referee. Chapter 423, Assessment begins. First battle in District 13. After the grouping in the morning, the freshman assessment will officially begin in the afternoon. In order to let the freshmen adapt to this assessment method, each team only needs to participate in 1 game this afternoon, and then they can leave. But on the second day, each team will play 2 games in the morning and afternoon, and finish the first 5 games of the freshman assessment, and then start the division and drawing again. In short, after lunch, after meditating for a while in the dormitory, Yuns and the other 2 followed the college's broadcast notification and came to their competition area. The teacher in charge of the 13th area is a young and beautiful female teacher. She looked at the 6 small teams standing in front of her and smiled. "Hello, my name is Mu Jin, and I am your assessment teacher for the next 2 days." A total of 18 college students immediately bowed and saluted. "Hello, Teacher Mu." Mu Jin smiled and said, "The assessment will start soon. Before it starts, let me tell you the rules of this assessment." The 18 students nodded in unison. Mu Jin continued, "In fact, there are not too many requirements for our freshman assessment. It's just actual combat, and you can show all your strength. The only requirement is that you are absolutely not allowed to injure your opponent, otherwise I will immediately suspend the assessment, deprive him of the assessment right, ask him to leave, and report it to the academy." The 18 students said in unison, "Yes." Mu Jin nodded with satisfaction, then took out a list and read out, "Then let's start the assessment now. Today, each of your teams only needs to play 1 game, and then you can go back to rest, and come back to continue the assessment tomorrow morning. Let me see, the first ones to be assessed today are Class 1 freshmen, Tang Hao, Ma Qingshuang, Leng Leng, Class 5 freshmen, Yuns, Tang Qing, Murin Jin." After reading out the names, Mu Jin looked up at the 6 students who walked out of the team, and said, "Now you can enter the venue, and each choose a corner. After I say the game starts, you can release your martial spirit. Do you understand?" The 6 people said at the same time, "Understood, Mu Jin." "Okay, go in." The 6 people then entered the venue, each chose a corner of the venue, stood still, and then looked at each other. After standing still, Yuns complained to his 2 teammates with an expressionless face, "I said that District 13 is too unlucky. Not only is the teacher the one from Class 2, we are even the first to start the assessment. What's more, District 13 is not safe." Tang Qing standing in front of him, Murin Jin standing next to him. After joking for a while, Yuns became serious. He said to Tang Qing in front of him, "According to the original plan, you will be the main attacker." Tang Qing stared at the 3 students from Class 1 opposite with burning eyes and nodded heavily. "No problem." Yuns whispered to Murin Jin beside him, "Classmate Murin, listen to my command and provide assistance to us later." Murin Jin also stared at the 3 students from Class 1 opposite with a nervous look. "Okay." At the same time, Mu Jin, who was standing in the middle of the 2 sides, also spoke. "The assessment begins." As soon as she finished speaking, the few people who had been tense immediately released their martial arts spirits and rushed towards each other quickly. On the opposite side, there were 3 people from the new voice Class 1. Tang Hao was a handsome boy, while Ma Qingshuang and Leng Leng were both pretty girls. Tang Hao's martial spirit should be the purple sword bamboo, and he should be a strong attacking spirit master. Ma Qingshuang's martial spirit should be a bird of ice attribute, which can be seen from the feathers that appeared on her body after she released her martial spirit. Among the three, she was the fastest, and she should be a sensitive attacking spirit master. As for the last Lang Lang, her martial spirit should be the wind element, running at the back of their team, and she should be a control spirit master. And these three people, without exception, all have 2 yellow 100-year spirit rings on their bodies, which means that all three of them are great spirit masters above level 20. I heard that the overall strength of the new class 1 should be the strongest, and now it seems to be true. As the only one-ring spirit master on the field, Murin-jin thought so. On Dai Yun's side, Tang Qing rushed to the front with a dark and simple Haoshan hammer in his left hand, and every step he took was full of power. The 200-year soul rings that should have been pulsating around his body were also firmly embedded in the handle of his clear sky hammer. And it was this clear sky hammer in his hand that firmly attracted the attention of most people in the field. As a teacher, Mu Jin was naturally more knowledgeable than the students. She was also the first person to recognize the clear sky hammer in Tang Qing's hand. Her eyes became extremely surprised, and she murmured to herself, "Hasn't the Clear Sky sect been out for a long time? Why can the Academy recruit a disciple of the Clear Sky sect this year? Is the Clear Sky sect going to be reborn?" Behind Tang Qing, Dai Yun's followed slowly. He was also the only one on the field who had not released his martial spirit. Murin Jin was slightly behind Dai Yun's by half a step. At this time, he had also released his martial spirit. He used his left hand and left shoulder to stabilize the Shyanankin on his body. His right hand was already on the string. He was waiting for Dai Yun's to speak, and she could immediately provide assistance to her side. When the two Soul Master teams do not intend to attack from a distance, the first to attack in each team must be the Auxiliary Soul Master or Control Soul Master who can put an abnormal state on the enemy. Of course, there are also Auxiliary Soul Masters who provide amplification to teammates right from the start. But in short, among the three students in the freshman class, Lang Lang, a Control Soul Master, should be the first to attack. Dai Yun's spiritual eyes accurately captured the light of the first soul ring surrounding Lang Lang. The next moment, Lang Lang's body was full of green light. She then pointed at Dai Yun's and the other two from a distance. Dai Yun's, who had the most sensitive senses, immediately discovered that the air around the three of them gradually began to become violent, giving him a sticky feeling like a swamp. Lang Lang should have used a control skill that could restrict movement, but perhaps because her cultivation was still weak, Dai Yun's only felt that her speed had slowed down a little, and there was no obvious feeling of being restricted. But Murin Jin, whose cultivation was not as good as Lang Lang, was affected more. Dai Yun's noticed that her body had a clear pause. Even Tang Qing in front of him obviously slowed down a bit. So, Dai Yun stopped hiding. After all, he was nominally the controlled type Soul Master in their team. When the opponent's controlled type Soul Master attacked, he also needed to take corresponding countermeasures. Dai Yun's eyes began to flash with a pale golden light. In a flash, he appeared beside Murin Jin. While patting her shoulder lightly, he said to her, "Start to increase our power with all your strength, Abwald Police Chief. District 13 is the safest place." Dai Yun's, "You are talking nonsense." Tang Liu could not help but show an expression of approval. The above person is right. Chapter 424, Spirit Eyes and Haoshan. The moment Murin Jin heard him finish, she suddenly felt her eyes blurred, and then she found that she was no longer in the position she was just in, and the feeling of being restrained by the strong wind and unable to move also disappeared. She was slightly stunned, but her fingers instinctively began to play on the Shyanankin. As the sound of the kin sounded, the yellow soul ring on her body also lit up, and the exciting sound spread throughout the entire number 13 competition area almost in an instant, but according to her judgment, it only had an amplifying effect on Dai Yun's and Tang Qing on the field. At this time, the team on the opposite side was less than 8 meters away from Tang Qing, who was at the front. The next moment after sending Murin Jin out of the control range of the Cold Soul skill, Dai Yun's flashed behind Tang Qing and patted Tang Qing on the shoulder. But this time, Dai Yun's and Tang Qing came together to a position 3 meters in front of the team of Class 1. This distance can be passed by any acceleration, and Tang Qing, who had just come out of the sluggish state, had to face the attacks of Zihao and Ma Qingshuang, which can be said to be very dangerous. But Tang Qing was not alone. When Dai Yun's brought him here, he released his spirit skills that he had been preparing for a long time. When sending Murin Jin away, Dai Yun's released his spirit eye martial soul, and at the same time, He also released his first spirit skill, mental detection. His first spirit skill came from an ice silkworm that was more than 600 years old, which was the same kind of ice silkworm as the Xianmeng ice silkworm. Although his century-level mental detection was definitely not as good as the mental detection spirit skill that the Xianmeng ice silkworm brought to Hou Hao, the final effect was the same. The range of 60 meters in diameter included the entire competition venue in an instant. Naturally, he immediately felt his target, the 3 students in the freshman class. After coming to Tang Qing and bringing Tang Qing to the current position, his second spirit skill, mental explosion, was released immediately. The 3 students in the freshman class who were locked by the mental detection suddenly felt a trance, as if a muffled thunder sounded directly in their ears, and the momentum of the forward rush came to an abrupt stop, falling into a short stagnation state. At this time, Tang Qing, who was amplified by the sound of excitement and whose first spirit ring was bright, also rushed out with a clear sky hammer. While jumping high, he raised the clear sky hammer above his head with both hands and smashed it hard at the 3 people in the freshman class. The first spirit skill of the clear sky hammer is the power of the clear sky. Boom boom boom. The clear sky hammer, which contained huge power, hit the ground in front of the 3 people in the freshman class, raising a large piece of dust. Under the impact, the 3 people in the freshman class also flew backwards and fell to the ground. At this time, they came back to their senses from the sluggishness of the mental explosion. Mu Jin looked a little surprised, and her eyes could not help but fall on the boy who had just retracted his martial spirit, because, if she was not mistaken, the spirit ring surrounding the child was. But she still announced loudly, in the first round of assessment, the team of Daiyuns from Class 5 won a game. Then, she began to register in the book in her hand. Tang Qing, the main attacker, spun the clear sky hammer in his hand a few times in a chick manner, then swung it on the ground, then retracted his martial spirit, raised his hand and clapped hands with Daiyuns next to him, and said with a grin, "This assessment doesn't seem to be that difficult." Mu and Jin stopped playing the moment Mu Jin announced their victory, and walked to Daiyuns and said with a smile, "I think that even without me, you two can pass this assessment." Daiyuns also smiled, and then said, "Don't be too proud, maybe we will meet other Soul Master teams in the next 5 assessments. And our opponents this round are not weak, it's just that my cultivation is higher, and I just happen to be unaffected by the control of that Lang Lang." Mu and Jin immediately teased him, grinning, "If you want to say that we wouldn't win so easily without you, just say it, classmate Daiyuns, you have this strength. Moreover, if I saw it correctly just now, the soul rings you have after releasing your martial spirit are 1 yellow and 2 purple. The second soul ring is at the 1000-year level. How did you do it?" At the end, her expression when she looked at Daiyuns turned into surprise and admiration. After hearing Mu and Jin's words, Tang Qing was stunned, and then looked at Daiyuns with a strange face. "Your second soul ring is also 1000 years old." Anyway, it was seen, Daiyuns felt that there was no need to hide it anymore, and simply admitted, "Yes, my second soul ring is at the 1000-year level. This is also the reason why his second soul skill, Mental Shock Blast, is so effective." The reason why Tang Qing had a strange expression on his face was because he remembered the scene of the first day of class at Shrek Academy. At that time, he and Daiyun saw a great soul master whose martial soul was the most beautiful butterfly in the entire continent, the goddess of light butterfly, in Shrek Square. That classmate also had a second soul ring of the 1000-year level. Tang Qing still remembered that Daiyuns told him at that time that as long as he took enough natural treasures that could improve his physical fitness from a young age, it would not be difficult to absorb soul rings across the years. No wonder Daiyuns did not show surprise at the time, because he himself was also a monster who absorbed the 1000-year level with his second soul ring. And he was a monster who had already reached the 3-ring soul master. Tang Qing couldn't help thinking, no wonder his family let him come to Shrek Academy to study. It turned out that they wanted him to come out and broaden his horizons. There are so many hidden dragons and crouching tigers among the freshmen of Shrek Academy. He is just a second-ring great soul master. Even if he has the clear sky hammer, which is known as the first attack weapon martial soul in the continent, he is nothing in Shrek Academy, because there are many students with more talent than him. It's decided that after returning, he will practice harder. Daiyuns didn't know what Tang Qing had decided in his heart. Anyway, their assessment today was completed, so the 3 of them left the assessment site and went back to the dormitory together, ready to start practicing. After all, They had to play all the remaining 4 games of the first 5 games of the freshman assessment within 1 day tomorrow. Even if there was basically no one in their competition area who was their opponent, it would still consume a lot of soul power. After a night of recuperation, the 4 battles of the 3 on the second day were also unusually smooth. Perhaps because their first battle yesterday ended too quickly, the other teams didn't have much confidence to fight them. Daiyun's didn't even make a move. With Muranjin's assistance, Tang Qing rushed forward mindlessly. Their opponents only put up a symbolic resistance before admitting defeat. What will happen when the spirit eyes are combined with the clear sky hammer? Daiyun and Tang Qing looked at each other. Ho Yu Hao? Of course it's the truth in the void, the storm of the mind. Daiyun, Tang Qing. Chapter 425, Evil Moon. Up to now, Daiyun and his team are the only team in District 13 that has won all 5 games. Their opponents in the first game, the 3 people in the freshman class, are indeed very strong. They only lost the game against Daiyun and his team, and won all the other 4 games. Daiyun and his team were able to win all 5 games. In addition to their own strength and other teams not wanting to play with them, the remaining teams are not very strong, which is also a very important reason. In short, as a team that has won all 5 games in District 13, Daiyun and his team will continue to stay in District 13 as the seed team in the next 5 games, and their opponents will become the other 5 teams. Since Daiyun and his team's goal is only to pass the freshman assessment, they only plan to win 2 more games in the last 5 battles, and give up the remaining 3 battles. Daiyun estimates that their 7 wins should be enough for them to pass the freshman assessment, but they will not be ranked in the top 64 to compete in the knockout rounds for the final championship. Even if they really rank in the top 64, they can choose to give up and be eliminated. Anyway, after playing 7 games, their freshman assessment can be successfully completed. Wouldn't it be wonderful to watch Yu Hao's game as a spectator? In this way, their 6th game began with the sound of Mu Jin announcing the assessment begins. This time, Daiyun and his opponents are from the freshman class 3, which is also a team of all great soul masters. But they still use the old tactics. Muranjin assists, Tang Qing is the main attacker. If the idea is difficult, Tang Qing can't get through simply by rushing, then Daiyun will take action to control the opponent, and then Tang Qing will kill with 1 blow. Daiyun's second soul skill is very strong. Even if the opponent is higher than his cultivation, it can be effective, and there will be no backlash like soul shock. As long as he controls the power threshold, this soul skill can play a good control effect. Therefore, in the next 2 games, Daiyun and his team won easily without much hindrance. Today's assessment is the last 5 games of the freshman assessment. There will be 3 rounds of assessment in the morning and the last 2 rounds in the afternoon. Daiyun and his 2 companions won the first 2 games, and they still needed to play the last game in the morning, which was the 8th battle of their freshman assessment. This was also the first of the 3 battles they chose to give up. Of course, since each team had to play at least 10 games, they could not give up directly, and had to pretend to admit defeat later. Therefore, Daiyun and his 2 companions still stood on the field, intending to throw a few soul skills and then admit defeat and leave. This time, their opponents were 3 very distinctive male students. The reason why they were very distinctive was that the leader was at least 1.7 meters tall, and his waistline was also close to 1.7 meters, looking like a meat mountain. The other 2 seemed to be twins, but they were both skinny and looked a little inconspicuous when standing next to the student in the middle. The height of the boy standing in the middle was definitely outstanding among the freshmen, perhaps because his own martial spirit was very special. Daiyun was also able to have a height of nearly 1.7 meters now because of his second martial spirit and the energy core of the dark demon evil god tiger, but he was still a little shorter than that boy. Tang Qing should have developed earlier. His height is about the same as Daiyun's, but Daiyun's is still a little taller. When looking at that boy, Daiyun felt a sense of familiarity. He guessed that the other party might be a character mentioned in the original book, so he guessed that he would feel familiar. Then, when the 3 people on the opposite side began to introduce themselves, Daiyun's guess was confirmed. The extremely fat boy was the first to speak, freshman class 2, Zihuaniu, then the 2 skinny boys next to him said. Freshman class 2, Luo Xianlong, freshman class 2, Luo Xianba. Daiyun and his team's current formation is Tang Qing in front, and Yi and Muranjin are behind, so the first one to introduce himself became Tang Qing. Freshman class 5, Tang Qing, freshman class 5, Daiyun, Freshman Class 5, Murin Jin, Mu Jin, the assessment teacher and referee, looked at both sides and said loudly, "The assessment begins." Dai Yuns was stunned when he heard the name Zihuan Liu. Then, while Luo Xianlong and Luo Xianba were still announcing their names, he said to his two teammates, "I suddenly don't want to give up this game. Let's win this game. At worst, we will just admit defeat in the elimination round later." When they first heard it, Tang Qing and Murin Jin were still a little puzzled. Then, after seeing the 2 yellow and 1 purple soul rings released from Zihuan Liu, they understood. It turned out that they encountered a team with soul masters. With the release of the martial spirit, Zihuan Liu's body expanded directly from 1.7 meters to 1.9 meters, and his skin became extremely dark. He pounded his chest with both fists, and then strode towards Dai Yuns and the other two. Luo Xianlong and Luo Xianba hid behind Zihuan Liu's huge body in an instant. For a moment, Dai Yuns and the other two were unable to catch the trace of the two. Tang Qing and Murin Jin also released their martial spirits. Tang Qing, who was standing in the front, said, "His martial spirit is the Pipi Elephant, which is naturally endowed with a very strong defense. I want to see how strong his defense is and whether he can block my Haoshin hammer." Dai Yuns wanted to tell them about Zihuan Liu's martial spirit, but Tang Qing got there first. Tang Qing is worthy of being a disciple of Haoshin sect after all. They haven't been told about Pipi Elephant in the martial spirit identification class of the academy. Moreover, as a disciple of Haoshin sect, Tang Qing's aggressive side was also aroused at this time. He wanted to see how powerful the Soul Master of Shrek Academy was. At this time, Tang Qing also figured out why Dai Yuns suddenly didn't want to give up this game. It was probably because he wanted to have a good fight with Zihuan Liu. Although Dai Yuns mainly wanted to help Yu Hao beat up Zihuan Liu, he did have a little fighting spirit. Seeing Tang Qing's positive attitude, they had already fought together for 7 games and had a certain tacit understanding, so Dai Yuns said to Tang Qing, "You go, I will help you hold the remaining 2 people, if it doesn't work, I will replace you." Tang Qing, who had been eager to make a move, said no problem, and immediately rushed towards Zihuan Liu with a clear sky hammer. Dai Yuns looked at his back as he rushed out, smiled, and then looked at Murin Jin. "Don't give him assistance yet, let him try it himself first. Wait until he asks for it before giving him an increase." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.